95.5.
The following program is paid for and presented by John DeMasi. The opinions expressed are not those of Town Square Media or station advertisers.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
The question I have today is anybody superstitious anymore? Yesterday we had Friday the 13th. Any black cats or anything? There used to be a big deal about that. Now it seems like it isn't anymore, but we move on. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, right here at WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi, as the man said. We are ready with another edition right here on the program, and we hope that you'll stay with us for the entire 3 hours. Joe Yakovich coming in at 11 o'clock this morning, and he'll have our usual financial update. So we'll talk to Joe at 11 o'clock. But in between, we got a lot to talk about here on the show. And as always, the number here in the studio, 609-407-1450, 609-407-1450. And we should remind you, next week, we have Congressman Jeff Van Drew. He will be on the show next Saturday. So got a couple of good ones coming up for you, so stick around here on Talk with a Purpose. I was reluctant to talk about this, but I feel as though I have to. And, you know, I will confess, I don't know a lot about foreign policy. I don't follow it as much as I do the domestic stuff, because I've always felt as though, you know, we got enough problems here, and we deal with foreign governments as we deal with them, and for the most part, we get along with most of the governments. But this situation in Israel forces me to talk about it, and I actually look back on my notes, and I now go back 8 years. I've never really talked about foreign policy. But today I'm going to give it a shot, and I'll give you my thoughts on what's happening abroad. And like I said, I don't know much. And, of course, Seth will come along in a couple of minutes, and he certainly will very eloquently talk about the situation in Israel. But here's what I do know, okay? This situation is 1,000% wrong. Hamas is plain and simple a terrorist organization, and just like Al-Qaeda, they should be destroyed. Plain and simple. And whatever Netanyahu and the Israeli government have to do, they have to do, and that's it. And threats from Hamas, oh, well, we're going to annihilate and we're going to film it. Okay. Okay, you do that. But I fully support the U.S. efforts to help Israel, and I hope that they turn this Gaza Strip into a parking lot. Because, look, that's the only way this is going to end. You know, we've had this conflict before, and they've had ceasefires, and, yeah, maybe they work, they don't work, but this has got to end. And you know, you hear these bleeding hearts, and did you see all of these protests on college campuses? You know, they have a right to protest. Yes, that goes without saying. But these college students saying, "Oh, Hamas, they have rights," and I mean, this is ridiculous. Is this what you send your kids to college for, to side with terrorists? I just don't understand it. But then again, I was in college in the 60s and 70s, and pretty much the same thing. Isn't it funny, though, how history repeats itself? I mean, we had those protests in the 60s and 70s, and now here we have this. But, look, Hamas started it. They started it. So Israel should finish it. And as you know, if you've listened to this show with any regularity, I'm not a warmonger, and I don't believe in that. But Hamas ideology, from what I've read, and I've studied this all week, they want to eliminate the Jews. Is this the Holocaust all over again? This really has, again, history repeating itself. And do we need another one of those? Do we need another one of the Holocaust? This is so ridiculous on every level that I just can't believe it. And also, history repeating itself. This is much like September 11th, 2001, where there was rumblings that this is going to happen. And I understand that Hamas was planning this for 2 years. Did we, the United States, have intelligence that said this was going to happen? And I understand that we may just have that. So this is, again, us and Israel, like 9/11, getting caught with our pants down. The intelligentsia in this country, and even in Israel, severely lacking. Like I said, this was supposed to be planned for 2 years. 2 years. I can't say enough about the support that I have for Israel. And they just got to stop this. Stop it. And forget about the threats. Just turn this Gaza Strip into a parking lot. And we'll deal with the ramifications later on. They've fought 4 wars. They've had 4 ceasefires. And still, this thing continues. I don't know about you, but I just pray for Israel, and I pray that this stops. But I just feel as though, and we got to get our people out. And I understand that there's efforts to get our people out, and there's more flights to Israel, getting the people out. We got to get our people safe and all of that stuff. But get the Americans back, get people out of harm's way, and really finish, once and for all, finish this Hamas and all terrorist organizations. Because what good are they doing? They're a threat to everybody. And I'm going to bring in Seth a little early today because, I know he has thoughts on it, and certainly, as I've said, more eloquently than I will. But Seth, good morning and welcome, and I know you want to talk about this as well.
Yes, I would. And I'm calling from Durham, North Carolina, where I'm at Duke University, observing or taking part in the 50th reunion. And it just, nothing makes you feel old like having your old college say, "Welcome to our half-century club." So it was a class in 1971, 2 years late because of the COVID. So I will not be at the libertyandprosperity.com breakfast, but it is going on at Sal's from 9:30 to 10:30. I invite everybody to attend because, again, you'll be able to get a word in edgewise because I won't be there, but the discussion will take place. And I also invite you to look at our website, libertyandprosperity.com, because I published a piece in what's called the American Thinker, a national conservative publication, of 13 important facts that Americans don't know about the Middle East, that you need to know if you want to understand what's going on. So I invite you to go to that libertyandprosperity.com page, and if you like what you see, please share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, hit the share it for Twitter to copy and paste it on your emails to other people. And, of course, if you disagree with anything, please take advantage of the comments section to put your comments there. Now, to get down to this Duke reunion, I had to drive about 10 hours down I-95, I-85. So I was listening to all the radio broadcasts about what was going on in the Middle East. And so, of course, I heard about the LaSalle students who openly supported Hamas and how, disgusting that was. But even more troubling, I was listening to the university radio stations giving the Hamas propaganda and how Americans are not prepared to deal with this because we do not know the basic facts. So I'd like to just go through some of the key facts about Israel and the Arabs that most Americans are not aware of. Could I do that?
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, the first thing is that the term Palestinians, very few people know that the Arabs who live in what's now Israel, used to be called Palestine, never called themselves Palestinians. The whole term was invented during the Cold War by the Russian KGB when they created what was called the Palestine Liberation Organization as a terrorist group. And back in the 1960s, when the communists were teaching Americans about peace, love, brotherhood, kumbaya, they were engaged in what was called wars of national liberation against the United States. And the communists set up all sorts of terror organizations, not just the Palestine Liberation Organization, but they were giving money and weapons to the IRA to cause the troubles in Ireland. They had wars of national liberation to take over Algeria, South Africa, Kenya, Vietnam, and Cuba. So this was really an artificial movement created by the communists just to defeat England and America. Second, Palestine, there was never such thing as a Arab country called Palestine. What happened was that was the Jewish land called Israel or Judea or Judah. And in 132, when the Jews revolted against Rome, not only did Rome crush the rebellion, but as additional punishment to the Jews, they renamed the province Palestine. So really, Palestine is just the artificial name that the Romans gave to Israel or Judea as punishment. And why did they pick Palestine? They picked it that was the biblical enemy of the Jews. So they were just teaching the Jews a lesson. The third thing that people forget, after the Romans crushed that Jewish rebellion more than almost 2,000 years ago, the Arabs and Turks who took over did very little to rebuild the cities or water the fields. In fact, the goats and camels of the Arab nomads or Bedouin stripped the land of trees, vegetation, and topsoil. So what had been rich farmland in Bible days became malaria-infested swamp and barren wilderness. So only about 10% of the people who used to live in Israel were living there after the Romans got done with it. Even so, many Jews continued to live there. But here's the key thing. About the mid-1800s, Jews from Europe and elsewhere in the Arab world started moving back to Israel and Palestine. It was Israel, but it was called Palestine. They bought land from Arab and Turkish absentee owners who had no interest in living there. Because remember, it was a disease, swamp-ridden place. It was dangerous. It was unhealthy. Or you had barren desert. You had nothing in between. So for the next 90 years, after the mid-1800s, the Jews came back, rebuilt the cities, rebuilt the roads, rebuilt the irrigation ditches. They drained the swamps, got rid of the mosquitoes and the malaria. They watered the deserts. They planted trees and crops. As the Jews made the land prosperous again, thousands of Arabs from nearby Egypt, Syria, and other countries started moving in to get better jobs. So, but few wanted to live there permanently. This is an important fact. So the Jews didn't take land away from anybody. They came to an empty land, built it up, and then when they built it up, Arabs started moving in, just like Arabs are moving to Patterson and Detroit and Minneapolis and so on. Now here's 1915. The Turkish Empire enters World War I with Germany against France and Britain. Germany lost, and so when that happened, the British and French set up, took the old Turkish Empire, and they created two countries. They created Lebanon to protect oppressed Christians. That became the only Christian majority country in the Middle East. And they set up a national home where Jews could move in to Palestine. Now, they actually gave half of Palestine to the Arabs and half to the Jews. And once again, more Jews moved in. drained more swamps, watered more desert, and as the land became prosperous, more Arabs came in, so that by 1948, you had 600,000 Jews, 160,000 Christians, about 1 million Arabs living in what was now Israel. The British gave independence. Oh, by the way, a fact that a lot of people forget, India. British India got its independence in 1947. It was mostly Hindu, but with a large Muslim majority. Now, what does that have to do with Israel? Well, the British gave independence to India. The Muslims wanted to have their own country, so they broke away and they formed what's called Pakistan and Bangladesh, 1947. Millions of Hindus couldn't live in a Muslim country, so they moved to India. Millions of Muslims in India didn't want to live in a Hindu country, so they moved to Pakistan. So you had millions of people move to a country where they could be the majority, and that's why India and Pakistan are separate countries today. You don't hear about Pakistan refugees. You don't hear about Hindu refugee camps. Everybody settled in a country where they would be more comfortable. And in 1948, the British tried to do the same thing in Palestine and Israel that they did in India. The Jews would live in one part of the country, the Arabs would live in the other part of the country. And it sort of worked out that way. You had about 700,000 Arabs moved out of Israel into Arab countries. You had 700,000 Jews moved from Arab countries into Jewish Israel. So the whole thing should have been settled in 1948, just like in India, but it wasn't. Instead, the Arab countries moved all the Arabs from what had been Palestine. They put them right in the border and said, we want these Arabs to move back and destroy Israel. That's been going on since 1948. The rest of the world has been basically putting those Arabs on welfare. They don't have to work. They have plenty of time on their hands, and their only reason for living is so they could kill Jews and take over the Jewish country. Now, there's one other element to all this, and that is that the communists and the Islamic jihadists are both dangerous cults, and both have been working together to not only destroy Israel, but to destroy the whole Western world. And people say, well, that's ridiculous. Everyone knows that the communist, Karl Marx, he didn't like religion. They have nothing in common with these radical Muslims. But the fact is they have a lot in common, because the communists have no theory. They have no ideology. Ever since Vladimir Lenin in 1919, all they care about is having a small elite being in charge of everything and keeping their power by any means necessary. And I think I talked about this before. The old movie Reds with Warren Beatty from 1981 talked about how one of the first things the communist government did, they set up this conference to make an alliance with the radical Islamic militants to fight the British, the French, and the Americans, just for pure power. And they have been working together ever since, and we keep forgetting about that. So that's basically what's going on, but I think very few Americans know those basic facts.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know it. No.
So I sorry I wanted there, but it's all everything I said is undisputed. It's fully documented, and I invite you and anyone else to get the details at libertyandprosperity.com.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. How it seems like this has been going on for a long time. How do we stop this?
Well, the short way is not to make Gaza a parking lot, because nobody wants genocide of anybody. We don't want genocide and murdering innocent people in Israel. We don't want to murder innocent people in the Arab section of what used to be Palestine. But what did we do in World War II? And that's what we're really up against. We had to thoroughly defeat and discredit the Japanese. We had to thoroughly defeat and discredit the Nazis. We had to do what we call denazification in Germany. We had to occupy Japan. And look what happened when we did. We turned two of the most dangerous, barbaric countries in the world into the most civilized countries in the world in a period of maybe 2 or 3 years. We fixed Germany. We fixed Japan. And unfortunately, we have to do the same thing in Gaza, or Israel has to do the same thing in Gaza, which means you can't just bomb them and hope you're going to fix it. You have to bomb them enough to know they were defeated, but then you have to occupy them, and then you have to have the kids go to school and learn that Jews are not evil and you have no right to kill other people because they have a different religion from you. We did that with the Germans. We did that with the Japanese. If anyone has seen any of the videos, and I invite your listeners to go there, go to YouTube, look at Palestine or Gaza kindergarten graduations, and you'll see that in their graduation classes for 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they dress the little kids in costumes, dressed like fighters with machine guns, and the graduation exercise for 6-year-old and 7-year-olds is killing Jews. So that has to come to an end. Now, the one thing that was really sickening as I was driving on my way to Durham, North Carolina, was listening to these university radio stations and National Public Radio talking about it, and they would have these interviews with the from the people in Gaza. Oh, the poor innocent people of Gaza. We have no jobs. Well, of course you have no jobs because you're getting welfare. You don't have to work. Oh, we have no water. Well, of course, you took the water pipes and you turned them into rockets. I mean, they're very sophisticated, educated people. But what was really the interviews, nobody asked in the interview, well, what do you think of your people murdering women and children, hundreds of them, at a festival? They never asked those questions in the interview. And also, where were you when you're in Gaza? The Israelis were surprised, the Americans were surprised, but the people who did the murder and the attacks, they were out there practicing in front of the whole population there. So everybody in Gaza knew that they were preparing to murder a whole lot of Jews. So, but nobody ever asked them those questions in the interviews that you see on National Public Radio or on these university radio stations. So we have to really straighten things out. Now, if you think this is an Israel thing, the same fake history that created this, the fake Palestine, the same brainwashing that you see that went on in Gaza is being used here in America with Black Lives Matter to teach blacks to hate whites, to blame whites for all their problems, to blame America for all their problems. So it's really the same war, militant Islam, together with the communists, or the left wing, or whatever you want to call them, to destroy America. And I know a lot of my liberal Jewish friends, they're shocked that thousands of people are demonstrating against Jews right now here in America. Well, guess what happens if you import 3 million immigrants from these Islamic countries? Of course, what do you think? You're going to instantly become Thomas Jeffersons and George Washingtons when you bring them to America? No, they're going to bring the same hate from their old country and bring it here to America. And it's very, very personal because, my daughter, sends her kids to, my grandkids to a Jewish, daycare. And I'd say she had 30 kids in her class. 27 of the classmates were afraid to go to a school here in America because of the threats that there would be trouble on Friday. So it's really, Jews were never afraid in America before, but now we are. And it's all unnecessary, and it's because we refuse to recognize this campaign of the left working together with these radical Islamic militants against us.
Boy, the way you put it, it's really worse than I thought. And I hope that it gets resolved soon. I really do.
Yeah, and by the way, this is not against all Islam, and I just want to mention this detail, that, Islam is a very complicated religion because it's based on the Quran, which is contradictory. In one chapter it says one thing, in the other chapter it says something the opposite. But the key to understanding Islam is Muhammad is the last prophet. So whatever he did, whatever he said, that's what you have to go by, and you can't change it. And there are Islamic scholars who say that Muslims can live peacefully with Christians and Jews and other people, and that's what the Prophet wanted. Unfortunately, there are 3 radical sects that say, no, Muhammad was killing Jews and Christians, and we have to do the same thing. And they are called the Wahhabi sect of Saudi Arabia. They're the Deoband India school that inspired the Taliban. And the third, of course, we have the crazy mullahs of Iran. So those 3 are dominating the Islamic world right now. So one of the other things that we Americans have to do is seek out the other, Islamic scholars and religious schools that oppose the 3 radical ones and bring about a reformation of Islam, just like we had a reformation of Christianity. We don't have any holy wars. We don't have Catholics killing Protestants anymore. The Christianity grew out of it. Judaism, nobody is smiting Canaanites these days. Judaism outgrew that barbaric conduct 2,000 years ago, and it's time for Islam to grow up. And we should do everything we can to help, the moderates within Islam deal with those 3 radical groups. So I haven't been in touch since I'm in North Carolina. I don't know the local issues, so I apologize for dwelling on this issue. But I think it's important, and this will all be discussed at libertyandprosperity.com. And our breakfast meeting going on right now, which I won't be late for because we'll have others leading the discussion.
As always, Seth, thank you. And libertyandprosperity.com is the website. Liberty and Prosperity, of course, their meeting starts at 9:30 this morning in just about a minute from now. It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. We're going to get started with the calls. John, Craig, and Bob, and maybe you at 609-407-1450. We are coming back. And we'll get started with Talk with a Purpose and your calls after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Palestina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Palestina. This ad was paid for by Palestina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
We are back here on Talk with a Purpose, and we'll get started with the calls. John in Ocean City. John, good morning. You're on Talk with a Purpose.
Yes, good morning. Actually, there are strip malls and shopping centers in Gaza, and the Gaza Strip, all compliments of the EU, the UN, and America. And the Israeli contribution was greenhouses. They actually built greenhouses there. And the more radical elements within the Palestinian community are Arab. They're really Arabs because Palestine actually, it was given by the Greeks to the people of Philistia, not Arab peoples. But anyway, that's another story altogether. But nonetheless, those greenhouses were destroyed. So they've gone beyond being out of line to actual criminal activities. Murder and rape. The last time I looked, murder and rape are criminal activities. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, they are.
So right. So they're more than out of line at this point. What do you do with people like that? I don't know. You can't negotiate with people like that. But this idea that these are not real Jews there. They're the Khazars from Khazaria. They're not really the Ashkenazis or make-pretend Jews. I got a big problem with that, man. I mean, because I do love history, you know. But Khazaria did exist. Khazaria extended into Kazakhstan and northeastern Turkey, and that's Turkish peoples and Slavic peoples had converted to Judaism, and they made a conglomerate called Khazaria. That was a huge empire. It was pretty big. It was mostly Eastern Europe, but it went into Western Asia, too. 1,200,000 miles of land, so that's pretty big. And they were from the late 6th century to the late 9th century, about 300 years. Now the Caspian Sea is the easternmost border of Europe. And I'm making that point there because if you look up Ashkenazi, plural Ashkenazim, from Hebrew Ashkenaz, Germany, member of the Jews who lived in the Rhineland Valley. Now that's the northernmost part of the Roman Empire during Roman days, in continental Europe that being, and the neighboring France, which was Gaul and Rome, before their migration eastward. Now remember, the Khazars are already in the east. So these are people that went to Slavic lands, Poland, Lithuania, Russia, etc., after the Crusades, 11th to 13th century. And it also says here they're to be distinguished from the Sephardic or Sephardi, Sephardic Spanish Rite Jews. Different in the pronunciation of Hebrew, but also it doesn't say it here, but they're also different in the way they look too. And Ashkenazi Jews are blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Many of them are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and the Sephardic Jews of Spain and Portugal look like Spanish and Portuguese because that's wherever Jews went to. It's not rocket science. Wherever Jews went to diaspora, they ended up taking on the characteristics. Sfalashi Jews are black. Mizrahim Jews are brown. They're from the Middle East. So to say that they're not real Jews, that's not true. Okay, those Ashkenazi Jews, when they went eastward, that there was intermarriage between them and the Khazarians, probably, more than likely, because that goes on, you know. But to say that they're not real Jews, and in fact, if you go back to black and white footage from the Brits, from the Balfour Declaration all the way up until 1948 with the establishment of the State of Israel, those people were called Arabs. They were not called Palestinians. So I just want to put that out. That's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the call. Boy, we are going to have a show today, that's for sure. Talk with a Purpose is the show, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. We will have Craig and we will have Bob and maybe you at 609-407-1450. We're coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment. But first, yes, BF Mazzeo is open again. Well, you know, they had to close for some renovations a couple of days this week, but they opened back up yesterday. So now you can go back to your regular shopping like I will after the show today. BF Mazzeo, the finest fresh fruit and produce you will find anywhere. And, of course, there's gift baskets, fruit baskets, gourmet items, baked goods, prepared foods, you name it. It's there, and it's all really fresh and good, and it's just, you know the saying, it's to die for. Okay, but to talk about something that a couple of weeks ago, I had a craving for chicken salad, and I got this chicken salad from BF Mazzeo, and it was really, I got to say, chicken salad has got to be really moist, and it's seasoned properly, and it was just so delicious. And yeah, I went back for more, as anybody would. So that's just one item. There are so many items, and if you are looking to not cook, this is right up your alley. BF Mazzeo. And online at bfmazzeo.com. That's bfmazzeo.com. And, of course, the gift baskets and the fruit baskets as we head into the holiday period, which is coming up before you know it. they ship worldwide. So you can ship to Aunt Tilly in Sheboygan, and she'll be very, very happy with a fruit basket from BF Mazzeo. BF Mazzeo, 601 New Road in Northfield. They're back open and ready for you. 601 New Road, Northfield. BFMazzeo.com is the website. And we are coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
If you're interested in driving one of the finest automobiles on the market today, then you'll want to check out all of the fabulous new and pre-owned Lexus at Lexus of Atlantic City. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Driving a Lexus is like no other vehicle on the market. Test drive one for yourself at Lexus of Atlantic City. Whether it's new or pre-owned, you'll be more than satisfied. In fact, Lexus is consistently number one when it comes to customer satisfaction. Visit Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Or you can check out their outstanding selection of new, pre-owned, and L-certified pre-owned vehicles on their website, LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. That's LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. Or, if you want more information, call 609-641-0008. Lexus of Atlantic City, now celebrating their 26th year in the area. A dealership that you'll enjoy. No pressure, no gimmicks, no hassle, no hype. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. And remember, always online at LexusOfAtlanticCity.com.
The WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey today. It'll be cloudy and breezy with rain and a thunderstorm. Mainly later, we could get some ponding on the streets and highways. The high today, 60. Rain and a thunderstorm still tonight. We're going down to 48. A shower to start tomorrow morning. Otherwise, it's a cloudy, breezy day with a high 63. Cloudy on Monday, a shower can't be ruled out, the high 61. I'm AccuWeather's Rose Tamburino on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Back here on Talk with a Purpose, and people always tell me, you don't give out your email enough. Well, if you want to email me during the week, or you can email me today, it doesn't matter. JDADV1 at Comcast.net. JDADV as in Victor, number 1 at Comcast.net. You can email me anything you like, program suggestions, comments, thoughts, whatever. We take them all on. JDADV1 at Comcast.net. And with that, we go back to the phones here on Talk with a Purpose. Good morning, Craig in Northfield. Craig, good morning.
Well, good morning, John. First, I'd just like to say how sorry I am for the Jewish people and everything that they're going through.
I agree.
It's just, I just want to start off with that. And I'm a Christian, but Christians believe that that's the Holy Land, and we need to protect that.
Yeah, that's right.
And we need to protect that with our lives.
Yep.
But, John, last week, you said after I got off the phone, doom and gloom, I heard you say.
Well, you were talking about World War III.
Well, where are we?
Well, I don't know if we're at World War III.
No. Let's talk about strategic chess here, because the Palestinians and China did a little agreement that why Biden was on the beach every weekend. She was taking care of business.
Yeah,
you forgot about that, right?
Yeah.
Where'd the guns come from?
Yeah. Okay.
Afghanistan.
All of that is well and good, but. It doesn't mean World War III.
Hold on.
Okay,
Hold
go ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
Let me finish up here. Russia and China have an agreement, don't they?
Yes.
Okay. And how many more days of strategic oil do we have in this country?
I don't know, but you tell me.
17 days.
Jeez.
How you feeling? You feeling warm and toasty?
No.
Okay. All right. So, Korea has the nuclear submarine now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, thank you, Joe Biden, for that. 17
and
days.
So listen, and anybody that hasn't been listening, okay, it's not me that said World War III. It's probably one of the richest guys who was on Newsmax said that yesterday as well. So, China right now and Taiwan. Remember Taiwan?
Yes.
Heating up?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think's going to go? So here, where is the Bush? The Bush ship is where? Right there in Israel, right?
Yeah.
If we get pulled into a war there, we got that. We got Ukraine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and then if a little something happens over there in North Korea, we got to take care of business, right?
Right.
Can we handle a 4 onslaught war and then have Taiwan?
Probably not, but I don't know that it's going to come to that.
They can handle 3 right now.
I don't know.
Well, hold on now. I'm just going to say this. If you think that Iran, with all the money that we gave them, isn't going to, help and assist, and China's not helping and assisting, you're mistaken. So that I'm going, and I'm also, we also talked about guns on the show, and in Israel, the people had no guns. You know what they're handing out to the people? What's that? Guns.
Wow.
They said they made a big mistake. Okay, that the people they were coming into people's houses. They had nothing. They didn't have locks on the doors. So let me ask you a question, John. Let's just talk about the married couple, okay, that put their babies in the back. Okay, they had no guns, okay, to protect their house and their children. They gave up their life so their children could survive.
Yeah.
All right, now what would you like to have in your house now?
A gun.
Thank you. Last week we were talking about, in the beginning of your opening there, you were talking about Gates. And I just want to remind people how this is shifting. It's a good shift because, Joe's Crab's place over there down in Maryland was very busy with all the, the lobbyists hitting up all these Congress people, to tell them don't go for Jim Jordan. Okay. It's all about the money. Who's one of the biggest people that gives to the lobbyists?
I don't know. You tell me.
Pfizer, maybe.
Okay.
Pfizer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many bombs did we shoot off last week when we had to refill up the Iron Dome?
How many bombs did we shoot off?
Yeah, well, to protect Israel, how many, missiles did we have to, unload off that ship to give back to Israel to recock and load? A lot.
Okay.
Who's in the bomb business, right?
Yeah.
So last week we did talk about the Democrats. What did they like the most? War. Didn't we say that?
That's for sure. Yes.
Okay. So, Seth, one of the things I didn't hear you say today was, okay, and I'll say it for you, and I'm speaking on your behalf. If Donald J. Trump was in office, this would have never happened.
You know
agree
what?
With that, John?
I was going to say, this would not have happened because Trump portrays strength and Biden portrays weakness. That's
we had the Abraham Accord, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we had the Abraham Accord. We don't have anything right now. So Jim Jordan's up to bat. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's the lobbyists that don't want Jim Jordan, okay? And if you noticed, Menendez, he got another little bout of conspiracy.
Yes, I did.
Did you
I saw
hear that?
Yeah, and I will talk about that later on, yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John, for allowing me to come on. I appreciate it. And let me ask you this. We're 5-0?
Yes.
The Eagles?
Yes, 5-0.
Bob's coming on. So, Bob, do me a favor. Tell me how we're going to do this week because I know he knows a lot about football.
We should win.
Okay.
We should win easily. Okay. Thanks for the call, Craig. Okay, Bob. Bob in Cape May. Bob, good morning. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, John. Hey, a little nervous about this Eagles game. Got a couple key players out. Our great cornerback Darius Slay and Jalen Carter are both out for the game, and plus our starting safeties out too, Edmonds. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, it potentially is what they call a trap game. Exactly. But the Jets have no offense, so I think we should handle them easily. But we'll see.
We'll see exactly. Hey, look, Seth Grossman, as usual, is has some very wise words here. The butchers that did this to the Jews in Israel, they need to be absolutely eliminated and destroyed.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
To just carpet bomb innocent people. There are innocent people in Gaza. Believe it or not, there are a lot of innocent people that just want to live like the Israelis, like our own people here. We just want to, just live our lives in peace. And that's true too for the Iranians. Believe it or not, they are controlled by a horrible government. They're responsible for terrorism, yes, but if you just indiscriminately destroy their country, just turn it into a parking lot, you will radicalize generations of people to come. And Seth was right. And we have history on our side here. In Europe, after the First World War, a very, very harsh peace treaty was imposed on the losers. It's called the Treaty of Versailles.
Yes.
And more than anything, the Treaty of Versailles was responsible for the Second World War.
That's right.
And there was no way the German people could survive under that treaty. Economically, it was impossible. It took wheelbarrows of German marks to buy a loaf of bread. And that paved the way for Hitler. And, what happened after the Second World War? Well, it was the Marshall Plan. And that again, and Seth completely correct. We could have dropped probably 10 nuclear bombs on Japan. And what good would that have done? And the same with Germany. There was something called the Morgenthau Plan, and it was developed by Roosevelt's Secretary of State. And the Morgenthau Plan was absolutely the most brutal plan you could have imagined that would have imposed. What it would have done was it was called for the castration of all German males. Okay?
Yeah. And
turned Germany into an agricultural state. And that's why the Germans fought to the absolute bitter end, because of that was out there. The Morgenthau Plan was out there. So when you talk about just blind revenge, you will hurt innocent people. And just one final point I want to make: my own family. My father, our family, come from Slovakia. They lived in an ethnic German area for centuries. Okay, they lost everything there because of the Russians. The Russian communist hordes. It was either get sent to Siberia, to the Gulag, or get raped and murdered. Our family got out, went to the U.S. zone. But before that happened, it's very easy to generalize blame, to blame all people of a certain ethnicity. My father had protected his Jewish accountant and the accountant's family for over a year and a half so the Nazis couldn't get them. And there's trees of honor in Israel named after our family. So, you cannot have hate. You can't just have blind hate because someone's of a certain ethnicity, okay? Hate is not, guilt is not universal, okay?
Yeah.
It's perpetrated by horrible acts are perpetrated by horrible leaders, but it doesn't spill over to the entire, people of a certain ethnicity or religion. It just doesn't.
Yeah, but Bob, they started it. I mean, that's what I was saying. They started it, so
of course they started it, and as I said, John, the butchers that did this need to be destroyed.
Yeah,
with no mercy.
No question.
I agree with that.
No question. No question about it. Yeah. No question about it. Bob, as always, thanks for the call, and go Eagles. Okay. 609-407-1450, our number here in the studio. We're coming up on a break, and we have Jim, and we have Steve, and maybe you. And, of course, we'll spill over into hour number 2. Talk with a Purpose is the show, Saturdays, 9 till noon, WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. And I'm John DeMasi. We'll come back with final thoughts in hour number 1 after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
We are back here on Talk with a Purpose. 609-407-1450 is our number. We're going to talk to Jim in Eagleswood. Jim, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning, John. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
So much said this morning. I think that Bob just mentioned horrible governments. 3 religions have been fighting over this bit of land. I don't know, 2,000 years?
Yeah.
3,000 years. And while I know a bit about the history there, I certainly don't know what Seth Grossman knows. What I am is 100% Irish. I can trace all my people back. And I can tell you about the 600 years of persecution of those people on that island by one group of people called the British.
Yeah.
And the atrocities. Okay, let me just tell you about something that happened in the 16th century in Limerick. British soldiers stood, and I got this information from a Protestant minister who was physically there and wrote about it. They stood with their guns and played catch with their bayonets with infants in Limerick.
Oh.
They call the infants nits, which are baby headlights. So we as a people on this planet haven't gone far. That's for sure. Yeah. We're doing the same things we did then.
Yeah.
And the only thing I have that I'm literally, my hands are quivering because I do know the history of my people cold. And to suggest for a moment that the Communist Party gave money to the IRA is preposterous. Irish people have been fighting the occupation of their country. I said 6. It's more like 700 years they've been fighting the British government. And if you look at history, fairly recent history, you will realize that the problems of this world lay in the lap of the British. They went into that area of the world and stole their natural resources. They stole their oil. They treated people who rode around on camels like they were idiots, and they didn't know anything about anything. You remember the term of Winston Churchill, the sun never sets on the British Empire means one thing and one thing only. You have subjugated the people around this planet. In Indochina, they created the drug wars in Indochina. They are the worst people on the planet, and they learned it and started it in the country of my forebears. They honed this in Ireland. They took it to Scotland. They took it over here and took care of the Native Americans. It was them. They're just all the world's troubles, one way or the other, go back to those people. And thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the call. There are all kinds of atrocities that have happened in the world, and if we had to list them, we would probably take more than this show. But it's just a shame when one thing happens like what has happened in Israel, then we think about other things that have happened in the world, and it's just a shame. Steve in Absecon Island. Steve, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning, John, and as I always say, a terrific program.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know how I can follow that last caller. He is so right on so many levels. It makes last week's conversation with Denny Levison look small.
Yes, it does. Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear you.
And this, I have so many thoughts running through my head, so I'm going to try, and I didn't jot anything down, so I might be spitballing here. It's always about resources and who's going to control them. And I ask you and your audience, do you want non-Republican style, non-democracies controlling the resources of the planet?
No.
Of course not.
No. Yeah.
Because we know that Republican style governments and democracies can be changed at the voting booth instead of at the point of a bayonet.
That's right.
Now, anybody that backs Hamas is essentially backing dictatorships, totalitarian regimes. I don't care that they had a free election. It's not so free when you have a gun pointed at you telling you to vote for certain people.
Tell that to all those college students who are protesting.
Unfortunately, I can't help misguided, educated people.
Yeah.
Notice I said educated. They're misguided and educated.
Yes, that's right.
They don't understand that.
That's right.
But it's always about resources, and we're talking about the control of the world's oil. We need energy. You need land to produce food. Why do you think Hitler always talked about Lebensraum, land for his people? And then he used the ethnic Germans in the borders of Czechoslovakia and Poland and saying, I got to protect the Germans. They're a minority, and I have to protect them. So it uses cultures as a prelude for war. And, it's always like that, tribalism. I mean, all throughout history, like you said, we've been fighting over resources. It starts out with two people fighting over food, and then it as the world becomes more technologically advanced, and you need minerals to advance energy resources to produce more food. The more that we become more populated on the planet, that's what it seems to me. So now I have some really moral clarity over the Ukrainian-Russian problem.
Steve, maybe you want to call back a little later because we're kind of coming up against it here. We're up against the news, so we got a break at 10 o'clock. So thanks for the call. And if you want to continue, like I said, you can call back. Talk with a Purpose is the show, Saturdays, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5, and also heard on 1450 AM, and always streaming at WPGTalkRadio.com. I'm John DeMasi. Hour number 1 flies by as usual. It's in the books, and hour number 2 is on the way with more of your calls about whatever. Don't go away.
95.5 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
Hour number 2, Talk with a Purpose, every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. And as the man said, I'm John DeMasi. Good to have you with us. Don't forget Joe Yakovich coming in at 11 o'clock this morning, and he'll straighten out our finances as best he can. So we're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we got a lot to talk about here, and we have a bunch of people on the line waiting to talk to us. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I just wanted to mention, how arrogant is this guy, Senator Menendez? Is he the epitome of arrogance? This week, well, we had a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon, but he was indicted. Well, they added to the indictment is what happened. He allegedly acted as a foreign agent for Egypt. And I can't believe I'm quoting John Fetterman, who he's not one of my favorites, but he was right here. He said, no foreign agent should be a member of the U.S. Senate. When is this guy going to get it that he's in hot water? And then he says, well, I might run again. And if that happens, and if he doesn't resign, and if he doesn't be forced to resign because of an indictment, if you vote for him, if anybody votes for him, I will I will crown you the king of the dopes. All right? I mean, who would vote for him? He's a crook. He's a foreign agent for Egypt. And he's in the U.S. Senate. Okay. Can't make this stuff up, right? Let's go back to the phones. Andy and Brigantine. Andy, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, John. It's a great day in Brigantine.
Yes, it is.
I think we're going to be here a while. By the way, the only reason they're going after Menendez is because the DOJ wants to be able to say, see, we go after everybody. We went after Hunter Biden. We went after Menendez. We didn't just go after Trump. See, we go after anybody who does bad things.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say they're fair and balanced.
That's a good point.
Okay?
Yeah, good point.
So it doesn't matter whether Menendez did anything or not. The fact that they're going after him gives them the street cred that we're fair and balanced now because, we're not just picking on Trump. So that's really what this is all about.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
All right. So I want to talk about Israel, of course, but there are other things that have been not reported or purposely reported now while we're focused on Israel so that not too many people know about them. Okay. But first about Israel, for decades, American Jews seem to have been enslaved to the Democrat Party.
Yes.
It's like a massive Stockholm Syndrome experiment or a study in cognitive dissonance. Now, after what we've seen on college campuses and in the streets in the United States and around the world over the past few days, I'm starting to wonder if American Jews are starting to realize that they've been aligning themselves with the wrong people and the wrong ideas because now the diversity, equity, the inclusion, the wokeness that they've been supporting all these years has now turned on them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they realize that their allegiance to the Democrat Party has, in fact, made American Jews the architects of their own demise. Now, in my work, I meet many Israeli Jews, and most, if not all of them, are conservative. I also meet many American Jews, obviously. Most, if not all of them, are liberals. So what's going on here? Now, John, they say out of every bad thing comes something good. I don't think any of us can believe that there's any good that could possibly come out of what's been happening in Israel. But if American Jews have now been awakened and realize who their real friends are and who their real enemies are, and that these ideas they've been embracing and espousing all these years are not such great ideas, then I guess maybe that's something good, and we're going to just have to cling to that for a while. Okay?
Yes.
So now these are some other thoughts. The college kids who are being trained to look at you and your values just the way they've been trained to view the Jews. We saw how these college kids were out in the streets saying blank Israel, blank Israel. They're actually embracing the slaughter of Jews. They've been taught to hate the Jews just the way the Palestinians have been taught to hate the Jews.
That's right.
And they're also being taught to hate you and Christianity, everything you and your mother and father and their parents before them held sacred. So don't be surprised when your own kids turn on you. They're sending to Jews right now the same message that they sent to Donald Trump and his supporters. And the poem, first they came for Trump and there was no one spoke out. You know that poem, first they came and no one spoke out, and then eventually they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. So the message they're sending to Trump and his supporters right now is the message they're sending to the Jews. We don't want you. You're not welcome. We're going to destroy you. Okay? interesting that Chuck Schumer is going to Israel now, right?
Yeah.
In order to try to fix everything people like him and his party have done to bring to the world what is happening right now. All this diversity, this wokeism, okay? Another thought, the same people who accuse everyone else of racism were in the streets yesterday calling for and defending the slaughter of Jews. And what these kids don't realize is that if Hamas were here in this country, they would mow down these college kids with bullets.
That's right.
Simply because they're not Muslims.
That's right.
Okay, so now this one will burn you up, John. The Americans that were rescued by Joe Biden with American Airlines planes, those Americans had to agree to reimburse the government for those flights in Israel before they got on those planes.
Jeez.
Meanwhile, we fly illegal criminals around the country. We bust them wherever they want to go on our dime. They go free. But American citizens trapped in Israel, they have to reimburse the government.
Wow.
Is that breathtaking?
That's really. Andy, wrap this up real quick. Wrap it up.
Let's talk about a couple of the things that have happened while we were focused on Israel. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, that's Rachel Levine, has now imposed a transgender pronoun mandate on its employees. So if a guy is in a dress and he says he's a girl, you got to refer to him that way, or, I guess you'll get arrested. We also have a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request that came out this week that showed that Joe Biden, while he was vice president, sent 29,000 emails to both Hunter and his brother James discussing their foreign business dealings. We now have the emails, okay? So all this stuff that I never spoke to my son, I never spoke to my brother or anybody about 29,000 emails between Joe Biden, his brother, and Hunter while he was vice president discussing these very foreign business dealings that Joe Biden denied having any knowledge of.
Andy, do you mean Joe Biden lied? No, you're not saying Joe Biden lied, are you? Boy, oh boy. Like I always say, can't make this stuff up. Talk with a Purpose is the show, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Let's talk to Paul in AC. Paul, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Hey, good morning, John. I'll be brief. By the way, we don't need people to tell us who our friends are like Andy. And Cardinal Richelieu was not a poet. He was a churchman, as his name might indicate. Anyway, I'll be brief. I'm team parking lot. We turn in the parking lot. We set up a chain of valet parking schools in Gaza. We teach them how to valet park and give them something to do other than kill Israelis. That's all I got to say.
Okay, that's a good one though. Really, boy. I don't know what to say about that, but it does make sense. John in Ocean City. John, good morning. Welcome back.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get my 2 cents in about Israel, but the fact of the matter is, there's an Arab Christian named Christian Prince has this moniker, and he actually got a BA in Islamic Sharia law in the University of Egypt, and he said that radical Islamism has its modern founding with a Egyptian ideologue called Sayyid Qutb. And basically, there's a saying among the radical Islamists, it's today's Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday. What that means is we're going to go after the Jews and then we'll go after the Christians. That's very Nazi-like, man. It's the radical elements of Hamas are going to do to the Palestinian people what the Nazi warlords did to the German people. They're going to leave them, half destroyed. But I mean, there's plenty of Lebensraum in South and Central America because South. The liberals always say that the land doesn't belong to it belongs to the indigenous people. Well, that not just the Anglos, that would include the Portuguese and Spanish. They were not the first people there in South and Central America. They had German communities there that were welcomed in because the Germans are a progressive people. It is what it is. They have plenty of living space there instead of exterminating and driving Eastern Slavic people off of their lands. But as far as Jim Finn Eagleswood, he talks about the persecution of the Irish. He's correct about that. But I have to say this: give him his due. Churchill spit in Adolf Hitler's eye, and I'm telling you, the RAF had not just British pilots flying for against the Luftwaffe, but they also had Free Poland, Free Polish, Free French. And the Irish kids were joining the RAF, and the elderly Irish said, "What on earth are you doing? Don't you remember the Black and Tans? The Black and Tans were the brutal British police force that was policing it, had a boot on the neck of the Irish people in the 19th and 20th centuries." And they said, "Yeah, we know that the Brits are bad, but the Nazis are worse." But as far as I want to bring up Taiwan now, the foundries that produce about 90% of our microchips are produced there. Our military depends on it. Our cars and trucks, TVs and computers and phones depend on those microchips that are being produced. But why on earth? We saw the Rising Red Dragon from, they have a 100-year plan from 1948, 1949 rather, to 2049, that 100-year plan, and their milestone will be 2025. Now, why on earth? Why didn't we move those foundries to somewhere like Australia? And it was Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated in June of 2022, that urged America to join the alliance between Australia and Japan against the CCP and their control of the South China Sea, where Taiwan is located. But see, we have a government that's pot side and stew not. I don't know how they're more crazy or stupid. I don't know, a combination of both. But meanwhile, we're going to demolish the BL England generating plant completely on October 26th, and we're going to put up those idiotic windmills out in the ocean. And there's plenty of natural gas right here in America, and shale too. The shale rock, which has plenty of gas within natural crude within it too, and we have plenty of natural gas, which can be very easily converted into gas that can go into your car coming down the pipeline from somewhere in the wilderness of Canada. We have all that going on for us. Meanwhile, we have a government that wants to go green, and they're going to end up turning this into black mud when we're all done with this. Thanks.
All right, thanks for the call, John. Let's talk to Steve again in Absecon Island. Steve, it's part 2.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call again. I wanted to pick up, the moral clarity of the Russian-Ukraine issue now is clear to me. It's black and white. Russia wants the land. Ukraine is a quasi democracy or fledgling democracy, and Russia is a dictatorship, and the people are going to have to rise up in that country and change the style of government. But I want to make a couple other points about proportionality. You hear this all the time. I heard it from a Jew in Israel talking about the bombing of Dresden during World War II and it wasn't required, right? The firebombing of Dresden. When you're in a war and you're fighting for your life and you're fighting for your freedom, how do you say, oh, the guy when we were storming the beaches, oh, the guy in the German is reloading his MG-42 machine gun. Don't shoot at him. We got to have proportionality. Only wait for him to shoot first, and then you can shoot back.
That's ridiculous.
I don't get that. I don't get this. I don't understand it. I hear it all the time. And when look, we're a Republican-style government. Should we have not dropped the 2 bombs on Japan to stop the war? They were not going to stop. My uncle was loaded up on the ship after fighting in Europe in Patton's Third Army, in the Battle of the Bulge, in the cold, wounded, and now he was writing a letter saying, "I can't believe I got to go to the Japanese theater now."
Yeah,
there's going to be millions of American soldiers dead. So what should we do, John? What should Israel do? Proportionality. Yeah, I think look, I don't know if there is such a thing in war. And like I said, the final point I want to make is about guns. The Israelis, I can't believe, gave up their firearms. I just don't get it.
Yeah. I don't either. Right?
Does it not make a case for United States citizens to have their firearms and have ammunition at their beck and call just in case something like this occurs?
Yeah.
What happens if there's another major riot in a city like Atlantic City, and they start coming into communities like Brigantine or Ventnor or Margate, for that matter?
Well, I'll be the first one in line to get a gun.
But you don't have it now.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
That's the point that your other caller was making. And finally, a two-state solution doesn't work. It only works when you have two democracies living side by side together. How do you put up a Hamas or Hezbollah government when they're dictatorships and they believe in totalitarianism? How do you do that?
That's
Are you
a
going to
tough
allow
one.
them?
That's a tough one.
Well,
yeah.
I wanted to ask you finally, the two-state solution. If they become their own independent state and they have their elections and they have commerce, are they not allowed to have a weapons program like Israel? Sovereign states are allowed to have weapons programs, are they not?
Yeah.
As much as we say we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, of course we don't, because they're not a democracy.
Right.
When was the last time? How many democracies are there in the Middle East? None. Other than Israel.
That's right.
Other than Israel. So do you want non-democracies to have nuclear weapons?
No.
And I'm not saying Britain and the United States are angels, but at the same time, we have the ability to change our politicians.
That's right.
By voting.
That's
and
right.
Not at the point of a bayonet. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Steve. Brings up some good points, and this is one of those shows where I get a headache just thinking about decisions that we'd have to make. It's just a tough show today. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. And after the break, we're going to talk to Dan and we're going to talk to Bob. And maybe we'll talk to you at 609-407-1450. Coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment. But first, there's no thinking here. There's no controversy here when it comes to automobiles. The finest automobile on the market today is Lexus, courtesy of Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. I've been paying attention to the Lexus TV commercials because they seem to be focusing on the SUVs. And they have a variety of SUVs. They have the rather large one. They have the mid-size one. They have the smaller one. And they have the hybrids. And my decision will be very, very soon, which one am I going to get? I could get the big one and cart around all the grandchildren. Do I want to do that? I don't know. But anyway, whatever I choose, it will be a fine automobile. And again, Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT. And if you don't go new, as I probably will, you can go pre-owned. And there are plenty of good pre-owned vehicles. And in fact, Lexus certifies them as L certified. And that's where they say these are the finest automobiles on the market. We have so many points that we check before we put it on the lot. You really should be confident that that's a good car for you. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT. Stop by, say hi to Helen. She'll take good care of you. And, well, Helen, I'll be there real soon, believe me. You'll look forward to that. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT. Online at aclexus.com. aclexus.com is the website. And we're coming back. More Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Palestina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Palestina. This ad was paid for by Palestina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
I'm Seth Grossman for LibertyAndProsperity.com. Americans are the most understanding, generous, and compassionate people in the world. That is why our enemies are using those virtues as weapons to destroy us. They are deliberately bringing millions of poor and angry people from failed socialist countries around the world to make America a failed socialist country. They know that walls, fences, and even thousands of Border Patrol agents can't stop everybody determined to get through. The only way to stop them is to arrest every person found in our country illegally and send them back. But our enemies think that Americans are too understanding, generous, and compassionate to ever do that. Do most Americans care more about the suffering of people coming to our country illegally than the future of our own children and grandchildren? Learn more at libertyandprosperity.com. Help us reach more people. Join our weekly breakfast. Donate what you can to keep us on the air and online. libertyandprosperity.com. Thanks.
And we would like you to know that if you want to listen to any of our shows at any time, it's a marvelous invention. It's called the radio version of On Demand. You Google John DeMasi podcasts, and guess what? All of them come up. There's almost 200 shows. You can listen to any of the shows at any time, just at your leisure. Google John DeMasi podcasts, and all the shows come up. It's a marvelous, marvelous invention. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'll get back to the calls in just a moment. But I just want to mention this. We've been talking about Senator Menendez, and he's not resigning. He is an arrogant SOB. That's all I can say. There is a law. It's being talked about again. And 2 cases in South Jersey have provoked the public to consider what to do with indicted or convicted people on the public payroll. You remember those 3 Wildwood commissioners charged with fraudulently obtaining state benefits for full-time workers, and they weren't full-time. They got the benefits, and of course they got caught. The commissioners and the mayor refused to resign. Finally, they did. There is a proposal, again, before the New Jersey legislature to require elected officials under indictment to be suspended from office, and they're convicted. They are to be removed from office if they're convicted. This was a proposal in 2008, and legislatures, they didn't approve it. Maybe they'll approve it now. But if you were, if you were in a regular job and you were indicted or you were caught doing something illegal, you'd be fired. And chances are you'd lose your pension. And shouldn't they lose their pension? Because in New Jersey, as we know, it's a generous pension. So and this law, hopefully it will move forward, but it will eliminate crooked politicians or attempt to eliminate crooked politicians, where they not only lose the public office, but they lose their pension. Menendez's pension would probably be upwards of $100,000 a year, and he should lose it. if he's convicted. That's all I'll say about that. And how many times have we said that? Let's go back to the phones. Dan and Ventnor. Dan, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning, John. How are you this morning?
Good. How about you?
Excellent. I'm trying to get moving here and get some things done, and I appreciate your program. Listen to it quite a bit, and some really stimulating conversation and topics today. It's every time I listen and every time I tune into the news on a daily basis, there's a myriad of things that are going wrong in our country that you can point to and talk about, and it goes back for me to the misinformation on the vaccines and, the hydroxychloroquine, and that's 3-4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So what's frustrating to me is, they're all identified. There seems to be evidence for the positions that what I call the common sense party, is taken, and that right down to the corruption of Biden and, how badly is he compromised, which is affecting a lot of these world decisions now, including probably this war and their stance on Iran, the border. I mean, you throw a dart and pick one. But what bothers me even more is the erosion of the constitutional values and principles as they relate to, the law. And by that I mean they've completely eroded attorney-client privilege, which, in my opinion, is critical to a proper defense. I think the people in the January 6th, situation are still sitting in jail after 2 years. I don't know, why there isn't a bail issue, why there isn't a speedy trial issue. I suppose it's the way that they, what I think, orchestrated, the seriousness of, say, a riot on our Capitol to make, maybe to erode them further. Like, okay, this isn't your normal crime. This is something even greater. So we're not going to give you bail. And those people remain in jail.
Yeah.
But to focus on that point a little more, when you think about what they've done there, they've made it, and it's kind of subtle. But to be able to, we're afraid to challenge, because look what's happened when people did rise up. They still sit in jail. So we know all these things are wrong. And I believe they're so devious. When I say that, what appears to be the left.
Yeah.
Right now, and that faction.
Yeah, they are devious. Yeah.
And they've made it, it's almost scary to think about coming together, rising up to make change, because they'll stick you in jail, and they'll hold you without bail. And I think that was one of the chilling effects of the January 6th thing. Only person that was killed was an innocent veteran. So, we're dealing with a very sinister element, and it's a shame. But just a point I thought I'd make, I have a law background, and, what's happening with those January 6th defendants is absolutely, it's completely unconstitutional.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is, yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it up.
But you said it. You said the deviant left. That's the best way you can put it. Deviant.
Absolutely.
They are.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for the call. Bob and Cape May. Bob, welcome back.
Hey, John. Hey, look, I just have to say I absolutely endorse Bobby Menendez for running for another term for Senate. I would love him to see be the Democrat nominee. I think as a Republican, I'd be thrilled with it. So anyway, look, a couple things here. Steve mentioned the justification of the firebombing of Dresden. Well, my father, when he escaped the Soviet terror, in his country, he rode his bike, had to ride his bike through Dresden, and that firebombing of all these German cities, you talk about right and wrong, and these were all civilians that were just massacred. You can justify anything, you really can. But I'll tell you, there were atrocities on both sides in World War II, not just one side. And in my father's city in Slovakia had 12 Messerschmitts on an airfield. They couldn't get them up off the ground because there was no gasoline. What did the Allied bombers do? They bombed the city, the civilians. They didn't touch those Messerschmitts. Okay, so there were atrocities on both sides. I do want to mention the caller you had. I think it was Jim that mentioned the British and how horrible they were in the last century, and he was essentially correct. There was no one has. Winston Churchill is viewed as an icon. Well, there was no one who did more harm to Western civilization than Winston Churchill. He was a warmonger. He instigated, and the British instigated World War I more than anyone. And the domino effect that had on Western civilization, there would not have been a Stalin, a Lenin, or a Hitler without World War I, without the British. The British were the ones that were absolutely culpable for starting World War I. It led to World War II. It led to the Communist Chinese, ultimately. It was a total disaster. And 100 million people were killed in Europe. And what that did to the Western civilization, that's why our Western civilization is ebbing. That's why Western civilization is disappearing. And a big culprit was Winston Churchill.
Yeah, I remember from my history, I don't remember much from history in school, but I do remember that Germany after World War I was in bad shape, and that led to World War II.
Terrible.
Yeah.
John, we had a professor at LaSalle. Do you remember Motormouth McCarthy?
Yeah.
Do you remember him?
Yeah.
I got an A in his courses. I'll tell you what, man, I could. My hand would. He talked so fast, and you really had to keep notes.
Yeah.
My hand would absolutely hurt after the hours class that Motormouth McCarthy had. But that was. I just wanted to bring that.
That was before laptops. Remember, Bob? That was before laptops. We had to write everything down. Yeah. Geez. Thanks for the call, Bob. Oh, brings back memories of college, writing till your hand dropped. I mean, those professors, he was right. Motormouth McCarthy and some of the other ones. Whew, boy. But we have laptops now. The kids don't understand what we went through. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We'll have John, and maybe we'll have you. Who knows? But we'll pack it all in before Joe Yakovich at 11 o'clock. I'm John DeMasi. More Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
It's a fall festival at BF Mazzio. All kinds of goodies, including delicious and fresh McIntosh apples, apple cider bread, pumpkin bread, and of course, all sizes of pumpkins. BF Mazzio, where there's always something special. Don't forget the finest fresh fruit and produce you'll find anywhere. And of course, a complete selection of prepared foods and baked goods second to none. BF Mazzio, 601 New Road in Northfield. Online at bfmazzio.com.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Your WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey. Breezy cooler with periods of rain and a thunderstorm this afternoon. There can even be ponding on streets and highways. High 60. Breezy with periods of rain and a thunderstorm tonight. Low dip at a 48. A shower in places tomorrow morning. Then mostly cloudy, breezy, high 63 to wrap the weekend. Come Monday, mostly cloudy. A shower cannot be ruled out. The high 61. I'm AccuWeather's Ruth O'Brien on WPG Talk Radio 95.5. 888-203-0555.
Back here on Talk with a Purpose, if you want to email me during the week, jdadv1@comcast.net, jdadv1@comcast.net. And you can also like us on Facebook at Talk with a Purpose. At Talk with a Purpose is our Facebook address. And it is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Let's talk to John in Ocean City again. John, good morning. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was actually 2 congressional medals honor. It was General Smedley Butler who won 2 congressional medals of honor for his valiant efforts in World War I. Had said that actually all politicians are culpable, that war is a racket. He put out a book called War is a Racket, and he said that the Western European and American politicians were just as guilty as the Russian politicians over in communist Russia, and also the up-and-coming Imperial Japan, that they're all culpable in it. So we need to watch out that we don't chase red herrings. I'm just saying. But it was actually several leading air commanders, including Generals Hap Arnold and Curtis LeMay, that said that the atomic bombs were unnecessary because conventional bombing had already brought Japan to its knees. Now, Curtis LeMay actually was in charge of the Pacific Theater. Also, here's another thing I wanted to read right quick, if I may. Eisenhower, General Douglas MacArthur, Admiral William Leahy, and Assistant Secretary of War John L. McCoy claimed to have opposed using the bomb, but here it says in blueprint, there is no firm evidence of any substantial contemporary opposition. However, right below it says here, why didn't Dwight D. Eisenhower agree with the decision to drop the atomic bombs? Eisenhower told his biographer that he expressed to War Secretary Henry Stimson his grave misgivings, first on the basis of my belief that Japan was already defeated and that dropping of the bomb was completely unnecessary because it would bring strong opinion against America. So that all being said, Nagasaki, it was Little Boy and Fat Man that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they were not military installations. They were not contributing to the war effort for Japan in any way. They were the most Christian populated cities. Okay, and it was actually Jim from Eagleswood. He talks about the degradation and persecution of Ireland. It even goes on today. The EU wants to bring in 120 million to 150 million people from North Africa and the Middle East, from radical Islamist countries, into that little small island called Ireland. They do want to do that. There's only about 5 to 7 million Irish and Irish women living there, and that's the only thing that's good. The only good that came out of that was the Irish Republic and the Catholic Irish Republic and the Northern Irish. The people of Northern Ireland, which are Protestant, are coming together, and they're actually burying the hatchet because of that idiotic religious war that was going on there. But anyway, it was actually Doc Marquis, who I talked to many times on the phone, who was raised in the Order of the Illuminati, yes. He was raised in Luciferian witchcraft. He took a knife and cut his arm open. It's called athame, and took a quill pen, dipped it in blood, and wrote his name in the Book of Death. He was a real witch. He was a real initiated witch. He said that there's 2 groups of people, the elite, which are globalists, and the regular people. And a part of waking up, I think, is coming to the conclusion that these elite are not looking out for regular people. They're the literal or proverbial fox, guarding the hen house. So yeah, I'm a controversial person because my rose-colored glasses have been smashed to bits at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And speaking of Jim in Eagleswood, he is following you. Jim in Eagleswood, welcome back.
John DeMasi, your head must be ready to explode.
It is.
to hear all this unconventional thought is pretty amazing on one day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, Bob made it perfectly clear that I didn't have time to go into Winston Churchill, but he's just horrific. And so many people line up to talk about what a great statesman he was. He was a total military failure. He was a nightmare. So I'm going to spin your head and everyone else's head one more time.
Okay, go ahead.
You ready? And this is irrefutable. Winston Churchill was Jewish.
Okay.
So compare that to what he did and how long he did it and the positions he took in the Mideast. Maybe that'll help you learn a little something, because it's true. It's not deniable. Trust me on that one.
Okay.
See ya.
Okay.
Have a rest of a good day, brother.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the call, Jim. Yeah, my head's spinning. That's for sure. Thank God for Joe Yakovich coming in at 11 o'clock because he kind of calms us down a little bit. Steve in Absecon Island, welcome back.
3 times a charm.
Yeah, that's right.
I had to call back because I disagree. I agree with almost everything Bob says, but I disagree. Population centers fuel the factories that create the military supplies for war. So whether or not history says that that particular city or any other city was a civilian center, Hiroshima was not. They were a Navy shipyard. Nagasaki was a Navy shipyard as well. They moved all their industry inland, away from the shores, so that perhaps they wouldn't get bombed. If you remember during the early days of the war, when we had the B-17s, they were being shot down because they were trying to do surgical bombing and not totally flatten civilian centers, right? And they couldn't. They were being shot down wholesale by the Messerschmitts. So they went to high-range carpet bombing, which were bad because the bombs couldn't land on the factories accurately. So I say this: proportionality does not work. When you are the Republican-style government, atrocities are going to happen on both sides. Yes, agreed. But when somebody raises their hand and they surrender, okay, you take them prisoner. But do you really believe the Nazis would have not carpet bombed us if they had the long-range bombers?
No, they would have definitely done that.
So where is this? So where is this moral high ground coming from? When you're at all-out war, where is this moral obligation coming from? Even Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War suspended habeas corpus. And then you have to hope that when the war's over, righteous people will turn back all of the brutality. And they did. During the Civil War, we gave back the Confederates their guns. They surrendered and we allowed them to have their guns. We, like other callers said, we rebuilt Japan and Germany in a few years. And now they're the darlings of democracy in Europe.
Yeah.
And in the Pacific.
Yeah.
So until you, like you said in your monologue, John, you want to see them bombed to parking lots. Look, you remember that movie, The Great Escape with Steve McQueen?
Yes, I
remember that.
Yeah.
You remember the scene with Richard Attenborough? He was talking to the RAF commander, and they were talking about sitting out the war. And Richard Attenborough said, "Look, if the Wehrmacht wanted Hitler out, they would have voted him out. They would have taken him out. They're all the same to me. Nazis and the Wehrmacht, they're all the same." I tend, art sometimes imitates life. I subscribe to that. You can't. If the people did not want Hamas, they would have never voted in the droves that they did for them. I know that a lot of them don't want Hamas in power, and I know that a lot of Germans didn't want the Nazis in power.
Right.
But if you go back to the black and white videos, what do you see? You see the big conventions with people, casting their arm up in the air for the Fuhrer.
Yeah.
Well, this is the same thing in these totalitarian regimes.
Yeah, that's
true. All of them, they gin up the hatred. It's about resources, and then they gin up the hatred to grab those resources. And I guarantee you're better off with the Israelis than you are with any of these Arab countries.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Let's stop this nonsense already with proportionality. It does not work.
No, it doesn't.
We're fighting for the freedom of the world. In our Western Hemisphere, we're the only ones that have nuclear weapons in the Western Hemisphere. Canada, I don't know if Canada has it. I don't know. I don't think Mexico has any, and I don't think any of the South American countries have them.
Nope, no, they don't.
Right? And do you think we would allow Mexico to have a nuclear arsenal?
No,
of course not.
No.
We don't tell.
What I was referring to is that Hamas started this, so Israel should end it, and that's what I was saying about turning them into a parking lot. Don't give them electricity. Don't give them water. Let's face it. We got to stop this once and for all. That's all I was saying. And back to those. Remember those people that said, "Oh, we shouldn't have dropped the bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima." Well, that ended it, didn't it? Didn't that finally end it?
Yes, and the last caller said that that Curtis LeMay and others wrote that we didn't need to drop it. Well, like I said in the last segment, my uncle was on a ship after fighting in Europe and after liberating Mauthausen in Austria.
Yeah.
Okay, so the hell with people that think proportionality, and we have to take the moral high ground. Yeah. I'm not waiting for a pillbox to reload their MG42 before I shoot first.
That's right. I'm
sorry.
That's right.
You guys you want to survive in this world as a Republican-style government, or do you want to start doing the goose step?
Yep. You said it.
And you notice, John, all of the Arab states, when they do their military parades, they do the goose step.
Yep.
Did
Steve,
you ever notice that?
Yeah, Steve, thanks a lot. We're up against it here for a break. I'll tell you, this has been a show today. We're going to come up on a break here, and then we'll talk to Roger and Cape May, and maybe we'll talk to you, too, before we get to Joe Yakovich at 11 o'clock. Talk with a Purpose, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Final thoughts in hour number 2 after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
I wanted to get to this before we turned it over to Joe Yakovich at 11 o'clock. RFK Jr. is going to run for president as an independent. And the question that I have for you, and maybe we'll pick this up next week, is RFK Jr. running as an independent, does that hurt Joe Biden or does it hurt Donald Trump? Which one would it hurt? And which one would it help? What do you think? That's an interesting question. We'll see. Roger and Cape May. Roger, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning. What a great show you have today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Churchill was really representing interests, the privatized Bank of England. So when you talk about Churchill and all the things he did to destroy Western culture, Western civilization, the domino effect of World War I, World War II, it's really the people, the deep state, the people above our president or the British Prime Minister that were choreographing that. Let's remember in 1973 when oil went from $2 a barrel to $11 a barrel after the Arab-Israeli war, and interest rates.
Yeah, I remember that.
So the results of this war, especially if Iran or the Straits of Hormuz get compromised, we could be facing maybe our children could be facing 20% interest rates like we did then, directly resulting from the Israeli-Arab war. If this isn't contained, oil goes to 150 a barrel, which I think it's going to 130. They usually expand wars; they don't contract them. It's wildly lucrative. They're building thousands of mansions all over Northern Virginia since this Ukraine war started, and I suspect they see some blood in the water down in the Middle East right now, and they're looking at ways to expand that and make profit off that.
Yeah,
it's $2 to $11, and then it was stagflation and agonizing interest rates for 10 years to come.
And remember the gas lines. Remember the gas lines?
Yeah, I do. We have to put America first. I mean, Israel's our ally, but our tunnels are vulnerable in New York. We have a very soft underbelly in this country, and Henry Kissinger just warned us that our migration policies of the last 20 years will be the downfall of our country. And he warned us about the viruses 20 years ago that would be deployed. So I think we need to take a longer view, like the Japanese Empire, the British Empire, the Judean. You got to take a long view of this. We're a relatively new country, but George, we need to stay at home. George Washington said it well. America first. That's what got Trump elected.
Yes.
The forever wars that have made Lindsey Graham's $100 million richer since Bill Kristol, Paul Wolfowitz, and the Project for a New American Century called for a Pearl Harbor event back in 1998 in the Middle East to get America involved in there. And that was $14 trillion that have been added to the budget since those forever wars started, since 9/11.
Boy.
So, yeah. We had 9 intelligence agencies warn us in August of 2001 that something was going to happen. 2 Mossad officers flew to Washington, D.C. in August and said they're going to fly something into the Pentagon. The British absolutely knew this was going to happen. A lot of those weapons Hamas was transferred over from Afghanistan that was left there. They've got Hamas and those jihadists so infiltrated and so surveilled. If you think a couple hundred people could pull this off without the Mossad knowing it, we had 20 people that did 911. We had 9 intelligence agencies in Western Europe and the Middle East warn us about that. There's no way a few hundred people could launch an operation like this. So the whole purpose of it is it's like Roosevelt and Pearl Harbor. You let the 3,000 boys drown on the Arizona, and for the greater good, you get a disproportionate reaction and a larger war, and so they're going to eliminate hundreds of thousands of people, probably lose their lives, tens of thousands this weekend with American bombs and American weapons, and the world knows it. The internet's not shut down, and no matter what the mainstream media in New York says, always banging the drum for wars and taking one side and usually they'll put a face on a terror war. They'll come up with a face for this terror war.
Yeah.
So get ready. They're going to get into your pockets big time with this inflation war tax. So just hold on to your wallets.
Okay. Thanks for the call, Roger. Real quick, Linda in Absecon. Linda, good morning. Welcome.
Real quick, General MacArthur and Eisenhower, they did not want to drop the bomb. And of course you go to war with America and then you become the number 1 and number 2 in the first and second after the United States in wealth. So we take care of them afterwards, right?
Right.
So, all right, let you go.
Okay, thanks for the call, Linda. What can I say after 2 hours of calls like that? Boy, oh boy, this thing in Israel really stirred up a lot of things and a lot of thoughts and a lot of viewpoints. But look, all I can say is we hope that Israel puts an end to this, and quick. We don't want any long-range wars. That's it. That's all I can say. It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Joe Yakovich is warming up in our bullpen, and he's trying to figure out how he follows this show. It's not easy, but he's going to try. He's going to talk about debt-free for life and about inflation and about all things that we can do financially to try to navigate this difficult financial situation. That'll be coming up real shortly. But we'll pick up this discussion next week, and in weeks going by, we'll pick it up. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. We have another hour left. We're not leaving you. Another hour left of the show, and we'll do that with Joe Yakovich and his debt-free for life and his inflation fighting and all of the stuff that he talks about here. So we hope that you'll stick around for that. And, of course, the number, 609-407-1450. 609-407-1450 if you want to call Joe and try to straighten out your financial situation. Hour number 2 in the books. Hour number 3 with Joe Yakovich on the way. Don't go away.
.5 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
Hour number 3, Talk with a Purpose, every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. We're also heard on 1450 AM. And remember, always online at WPGTalkRadio.com. And with that, we bring in Joe Yakovich, JML Financial. He is here.
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
And you probably know this information much better than anyone else, other than the guys next to us.
Okay.
Do you remember when Tom Brady was down, 13 or some 38 points in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And he came back and won
the Super Bowl.
Correct. Or another game he played in, and he was down like 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
But at the end of the game, he was the victor.
Yes.
So I want to start off that conversation similar to where you put me in right today. You put me in minus 38 points right now. You and Chris, you're all double-teamed me. I'm down by 38, and I have to climb out of this to win the Super Bowl. Better than 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
To make a point to what's happening out there. Your callers are impeccable. They are really insightful. Matter of fact, way over my head on some of these things that I've been listening to. I'm sure you're looking at them and looking at me with your goggly eyes going, what is this guy talking about from King? Anyway, but believe it or not, John, what everyone that I've heard so far, and I approve the message, I believe in, because listen, you're seeing it now. Jeopardize the market up and down. You're seeing inflation out of control and all the things we talked about. So today we're going to have a conversation about that. So.
Okay, but first I want to say this. Real men wear shorts in October.
Yeah, baby, you see it.
Right?
You see
you
see the KT tape on it though too.
Comes in with shorts.
Beautiful day today.
I mean,
we're ready to play. We're ready to play.
I don't understand it, but, that's real men. And you are a real man.
Wait till December. You'll see me wear the same couple of pairs.
Okay, so you're going to talk about today what is an SDIC and how it can help you. But before we get into that, let's talk about inflation, which is the hot topic today.
How about what we have been just seeing over the last 2 years? And you and I, when we jumped on this together some years ago, and I said to you, inflation, and you looked at me like, what are you talking about, inflation? There's no inflation here, Joe.
Yeah.
And I said, no, John, it's coming. It's coming. It will be here in a very quick moment. And when the lights went on, everything's breaking loose. Energy is one of the issues.
Yeah.
But inflation is out of control, John. The market is volatility I've never seen before. And it's so volatile, it's really a scary moment. But you also have the things that are taking place across the world that also concerns me with some of the callers we received today in reference to energy and what could potentially happen and how this could spiral out of control. And unfortunately, we are in an environment that, and for my own self, since this started to happen, back in the day in 9/11, my head was always on a swivel. There was always a little way that I looked at things. And because I went to Europe a number of times, those folks and, officers and people that are in the service, they react to people in general than our people do. And our people, unfortunately, I'm afraid to tell you, and this is not just me speaking, we've gotten soft, John. We've gotten soft, and that's what's going to cause and will continue to cause if we don't stand up and get tough with people. You must be tough, and we're in an environment you need to be tough. And when I talk about inflation, because of the quantum tightening of increasing interest rates so fast, people don't realize we're going to be in this situation for a while. But if there's a strategy that I can put together, and this is so cool about what I do, John, because of those things that are being thrown at me, different curveballs, and we don't know when they're going to come. You see it happen in front of you. Me and my firm and how we think differently to be prepared for all the things that are going to be coming at us. And if you deal with a traditional wealth manager, they will not see what's coming like we are seeing what's coming. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In terms of inflation, every situation?
What's coming?
Well, obviously, inflation is going to continue to come. And now the next barrel that will come at us, they're going to start to do this easing and possibly, I don't think in an immediate future, with easing of interest rates. But you have a problem here. Most of our foreign or our debt is foreign owned. They don't want 2% no more, John. So that's going to cost us more money to service the 33. And by the way, John, it's close to be 34. I don't think you realize what's happening in our debt. It's going up dramatically. We have not been affected by it. You know what it feels like, John? I know this is going to sound really weird. It's like if you want to kill yourself, and this is what we're doing slowly, we're going in a garage with the car on, and we're shutting the door.
Oh.
You don't feel it right away, but what's happening, unfortunately, all across the country, there's a ripple effect. So we need to be tough on certain things. We have to draw the line in the sand, and inflation is going to hurt us, and energy is really going to hurt us. People don't realize this is coming, and why I say this to all of you. We have a process we follow besides the investment, besides the guaranteed income and cash flow strategies. But, John, we can help people, which we're going to talk about today, is that because of the 40 years that I've been doing this, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. And I've been around the block a little bit. So when you see what I see, and people are very much concerned, we have a way of what we do that the wealthy people do. And the only reason why they do it, John, with us, the way they do it, they ask better questions than the people that don't have any money. So the people that have money are asking better questions from us. You know what the number one question they ask me, or what the comment they make to me?
What's that?
Joe Yakovich, I do not want to lose money. I want no loss. I don't want you to lose my money and my family's money. So that's a concern. And inflation, if we don't take care of this fast in what we do and how we plan for our retirement and also longevity, it's going to cost us a lot more money moving forward.
What else can you say about this?
Well, John, what's happening is because of that, people have informed information. For instance, bonds. Bonds were supposed to be the safest investment out there. But guess what happened, John? When interest rates were, 18 months ago, 1.4%, you would buy a 30-year bond and be happy.
Yes.
Guess what happened? In a very short period of time, it went to close to 5%. Well, the bond that you hold, the value of it went down because the pricing of the bond went up. People don't understand that. People have lost 50% of their value of the money they invested in a bond portfolio thinking that was a safe way to go. Not safe. So it's happening. People have to rethink the way they used to think back in the day and understand there are also vehicles that we use every day, John, that will prevent these things from happening. So I couldn't be more happier, but also sad, because there's a lot of people that are going to get caught with their pants down because of what's going on. They're not prepared for the next 10 years of what's going on. They're still thinking what they had made over the last 10 years, it's going to be successful. So that's a big concern, and inflation is one of them.
All right, Talk with the Purpose is the show. Saturdays, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Joe Yakovich is here. Joe is JML Financial. His website is jmlfinancialgroup.com. And we want you to talk a little softer.
Softer? Okay. I will. You want to talk softer? It just really
the higher ups just text me. I know you're passionate.
Yeah, but it's really sad that what's happening, John. And it's sad in the sense that what I see, people need to wake up. I mean, everyone thinks that, putting money in the market is a good thing, and I do believe that also. But what's happening, they're putting in the wrong situations, and losses are going to occur, and inflation is going to increase because of volatility and inflation, and also the new changes of laws that we all don't know. So my question becomes, what do we do about it? And do we use the same cookie cutter approach to that? And unfortunately, you can't. So we take it on our responsibility is to be able to see certain things that most people don't. And that example is debt. I didn't realize, John, and my son, I hope, is going to call in, that the problem that we're having in the country, we have a lot of debt in our country.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of debt, personal debt.
That's true.
So people are starting to go, wow, can I keep up the same pace to keep myself with the Joneses, right? And what do we do about it? But that's not going to go away with these people unless we help them, truly help them get out of debt. So that's why, for us, I'm very passionate about making sure we are at least in a position not to lose money and to use the tax code, to our advantage for us. And this situation now, John, with what we're having and faced with on a prior, your show here, is going to affect how our money is affected by how we spend it. So it's a big concern of mine. I'm very passionate about it, and I want to make sure people that I work with understand it. And most of the people, John, from the last workshop I did, people really understand the fact that besides me being authentic, but it's a wake up call. This is a wake up call, what you're seeing here. And I truly believe that. So people need to understand, because their money is because of the debt situation and because the interest we have to pay on the debt when it rolls over. You see, we were so used to rolling the money over and paying less on the juice of the debt. Well, guess what happened? The juice went up. The cost for maintaining that debt went up.
That's the trap.
Thank you very much. So two things that happen. They're going to have to print us out. You can't print anymore. We're going to make a stop to that. And two, inflation is going to continue. So we use this debt situation to get them out of debt as fast as possible so we don't have to go back into debt.
How much personal debt now? How much personal debt collectively do we have in America?
When I hear for this, when I saw this, I was like, I was shocked. Are you ready? $24 trillion T with a T. That's 12 zeros of personal debt. So when I'm talking to people now more than ever, because we have a proprietary system that works and helps people get out of debt, we are start to really focus on, can I get you out of debt in half the time? And we'll have money attached to that. So our concern is getting you out of debt and using the snowball effect of it. And we'll talk to people how snowballing works. But at the end of the day, we get you out of debt. That's more money than you can spend, save, buy real, whatever you want to do with it.
Okay. We have Michael on the line, and Michael, you might know this guy. Do you know him?
Good morning, guys.
How you doing? This is Michael Yakovich, so he's part of the team, and he's going to contribute to today's show. What do you got for us, Joe and Mike?
You know what? My son, thank you, Michael, for jumping on real quick. Working with my son, Michael, it gives me another fresh idea. And believe it, sometimes people look at it just it's 30, 40 years in the business and we have a set way. But bringing in Michael about 3-4 years ago not only brings a fresh idea, but he sees things that it took me 30, 40 years to see, and he's seeing them in a very, very short period of time. So the first question I'm going to ask you, Mike, and I think it's an important one. What are some of the greatest values that you've seen with doing Debt for Life with the clients that we're be able to offer this information to them?
Well, obviously, love being here on the show, Dad. John, isn't he a wild man that he wears shorts in October?
Yes. Let me ask you this, Michael. You can teach him a lot of things. Why can't you teach him to be a better golfer?
Listen, that body of his was built to carry tons of weight on his shoulders and to squat 1,000 tons. It wasn't built to swing a golf club, and that's okay. He will realize that soon, but he has me to live through for achievements in the golf world.
Okay.
But back to Debt Free for Life. But I just think it's funny. My dad he'll wear shorts in December and January. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the greatest added value, Dad, that I think Debt Free for Life has to offer is I think it's just working with individuals that are in so much debt that they obviously don't know what to do and they think they're doing it the correct way. And when we show them the Debt Free for Life program, when we can see their reaction, when we show them how much faster we are able to get them out of debt, but not just in that way, by also giving them an amount of money that sits in an account that's tax-free. I ask these people, and you sit down with me right next to me in the meetings, and I ask them, how does it make you feel 100% debt-free with also a tax-free cash account at the end of the whole program? And the individual's response and their reaction has only been either speechless or amazing. So I think that's one of the greatest values of being able to help them get out of debt much faster and also having them have a tax-free cash account that will allow them to never go back into debt. And I think that's a great benefit.
And he sees it, and you see it, obviously. You spoke with him a multi-time.
Yes.
So that's one more question, Michael, if I may, and surprise you about this, talking about people of all ages and all over the country. Do you find anything that would surprise you, considering you're working with not only as in the family business, but more importantly, you're talking to people all over the country, not just in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, New York or Connecticut. You're speaking to people all over the country. What do you find some of the surprises that you see also there?
Most definitely. I think it's the same surprise as you. As you said earlier, you've been in this business for almost 40 years, and this is shocking to you that how much debt people are actually in. And I think for me, I just never imagined that this many people are in this much debt, and the debt is higher than I expected, especially now that student debt payments are back, and that just got released with the news. So it's just, and we speak about this, Dad, all the time, and I know, John, you know this as well. People don't go around bragging about their debt. They're not going to come over at your house and hang out and talk to you how much debt they're in, but they'll tell you about the car or the vacation they plan on taking in a couple months. So it's something that they obviously don't speak about often. So when we're sitting down with these people and they tell us, it's something that surprises me that it's hidden, but it's something that it's a problem that needs to be solved.
And I'm going to give you the last one, unless you want to ask him the last one.
No, you can go ahead.
And you've been working with us for the last couple of years. Working with your family, how do you like that? And you don't have to be too honest.
Wait a minute. You're opening up a can of worms here, Joe.
It costs me money. I can feel it.
Yeah.
No. Obviously, John, you know me well, but to the listeners, my mom and my dad are my best friends, some of my best friends in my entire life. Other than working with them, I have an amazing relationship with them. So working with my parents and being able to offer help to them in the financial aspect is only a blessing. So I'm blessed every single day. I tell my dad how thankful I am to have him as a mentor, a coach, also my father. So it is a fun time. There can be tough times, obviously, in the family business, but at the end of the day, I know it's tough love, and it's a very, very fun time. Myself, my mother, Lynn, and my dad, Joe. I think we have a really fun time doing what we do. So I'm blessed every single day in my life.
You're a very lucky man, Michael.
I very much am. He allows me to live a very fun life.
That's right.
He had to work hard, and it's very cool.
The greatest thing he ever said to me was, student loans. If I can't provide for my kids a college education, then I don't belong in business. And you ended up with no student loans after college. And
he makes a joke all the time. He says, I got you your master's degree. And it's funny that I learn much better in experience. And when I sit down on all my dad's meetings, he sees it right in his face that I learn in a different way. But the way that he's teaching me, it's working. And you can kind of joke around that I am getting my master's in financial advising. So it's very fun.
Michael, we thank you for contributing to the show today, and I'll catch up to you soon.
Thanks, Michael.
I'll see you next week, John, and
yes.
Dad, I will talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, it is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich. As I say, this is the Joe Yakovich Hour, and we still have plenty to talk about, including debt-free for life. What does it mean, and how can it help you? 609-407-1450 is our number here in the studio, 609-407-1450. With Joe Yakovich, I'm John DeMasi. We're both coming back after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
It's a fall festival at BF Mazzio. All kinds of goodies, including delicious and fresh McIntosh apples, apple cider bread, pumpkin bread, and of course, all sizes of pumpkins. BF Mazzio, where there's always something special. Don't forget the finest fresh fruit and produce you'll find anywhere. And of course, a complete selection of prepared foods and baked goods second to none. BF Mazzio, 601 New Road in Northfield. Online at bfmazzio.com.
Joe Yakovich is available during the week, 856-751-1771. That's the number, 856-751-1771. Joe has met with many people who have listened to him here on the radio, and he certainly can meet with you as well. All you got to do is call and set it up. It doesn't cost you anything. 856-751-1771. And his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. jmlfinancialgroup.com is the website. It is the Joe Yakovich Hour here on Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We're going to talk about this Debt Free for Life. We've been teasing you with it throughout the hour this morning. What's the most important factors that are part of this strategy, and what is SDIC? Let's start there.
SDIC is an acronym for Specially Designed Insurance Contract. And basically what we do is we take a life insurance contract and we examine the financials on the company, making sure it's a mutual company. And we customize it in a way that will be where we're not concerned as much as the death benefit that we are of what it's able to build up inside tax-free. This is all part of the tax code. So this is not something that people don't know about, but the people in our business, unfortunately, you have, wealth managers that talk about money managers and money situations. Then you have retirement income planners. They have to know both. And I happen to be that person. So when I'm dealing with certain vehicles, a lot of the people in the wealth advisory community very rarely will they ever speak about this. We're big advocates of it, especially because of tax situations that you're able to use almost like a glorified Roth IRA. So we can build this thing up and continue to build it up. And what it allows us to do, John, because people don't fully understand this, is when you're able to build this up through a process that we use, you're able to what we call debt snowballing. Now, you're going to wonder, looking at me, well, what is debt snowballing, Joe Yakovich? I mean, it's not December. I'm not going to put it, out there.
Yeah.
But what debt snowballing is, John, and I have to give him some credit, David Ramsey pretty much talked about this for probably 25 years. And the problem that we, as our firm, did back in the day, I used to do some of the things that he used to do. And what I did do, I did everything on paper because there was no Google or, you'd be able to look up things.
Yeah.
So for him, it was
the old-fashioned way.
Old school way. But because AI and digital information came upon us, and I used that to my advantage, I realized Dave was missing a piece. The piece that he was missing that I thought was the most important is that, okay, you get out of debt, and with Dave's plan, you got no money. With our plan, you got a chunk of money left over into this SDIC account. And I'm not asking anyone to put any more money out of pocket. And then I started to do this, John. I started to realize, wow, the people I'm talking to, I would just casually talk to them about debt. But then I found out more and more, there's a lot of folks that are up to their nose in debt. Like my son said earlier, they're not bragging about it. So what I started to realize, if I get people out of debt fast, almost in half, they could do the things they want to do with their money, whatever that may be. They could pay off, they could buy other things, being real estate, cars. They can put their children through school. I mean, it's endless of what they're able to use this SDIC account for. And we found out long ago that that's the way to go today. And in a very good way, fortunately, we've been working with some of our partners, and they put together a proprietary package to share with people to get them out of debt and show them real time, John, right there as I speak with you, like I'm talking to you now. Within 30 minutes, you'll go, oh, this is what I have. This is what, okay. So it's really a simple process that we use of using that SDIC contract.
Okay, can you explain it in layman's terms?
Okay.
All right. What is this debt free for life, and how do you get people out of debt?
Well, first of all, you have to look at a debt snowball. It's not the amount of money, John, that you owe. It's the amount that the money that you pay. That's the really important and understanding. You need to understand that. And we want to put you in a better position to ask better questions. So when we look at what you have, we take all your debt and line it up, every single bit of it.
That's number one. I sat in, and your son did, a illustration using my debt.
Correct.
And I didn't give him everything.
Right.
And it ended up the effective interest rate that I was paying.
Interest cost.
Thank you. 77%.
That was one of the highest in the country that you gave that information to. Now, some of it probably would go down, because of what you're not giving everything up. But that's the problem. See, what people don't understand, that's what the banks and the lending institutions are making.
Yeah, they must love me.
Oh, they absolutely love everyone. So when you start to ask questions, because think about it, John, all the debt you pay, and yours was 70, I get people between 30 to 50. That's the effective interest cost. That's what the banks are making. And I'm saying, when I started to really dive in this really deep a number of years ago, we started to put this together for the country in terms of using the AI programs and such, it becomes apparent to me, and it came apparent to the people I'm talking to, that they said, we can do this. And then, what the question or the rebuttal or conversation they would have with us right away, why doesn't everyone know about this? And why didn't anyone tell me this?
That's what I said.
Number one.
That's what I said.
Yes. And I said, and I gave them the answer because of the banks. And two, the people in our business, in our space, what we do, and there's a lot of us in different capacities, don't fully understand to get out of debt. And I'll tell you why, John. It's really a simple one. Because when you meet with a individual, like I'm meeting with this young doctor, my friend, my new Lithuanian doctor that happened to be and this is how this happened with my new friend that I just met from a workshop and talking about this. He said, I have no debt. Well, the fact that he heard me say that and had that conversation with me was part of the dialogue that I had with him. And then I said, well, the reason why you don't is because obviously the banks make money. And two, because of people like me, they've never been taught that because of one thing. When they meet people with big insurance companies or big wealth management companies, the first question they get would be, how much are you saving? You're doing an okay job. And they talk about rates of return and timing. That's a good conversation to have. But that's not how you build wealth.
That's right.
And that was the key. Because when you say that to someone that have a lot of money or has a lot of money or will continue to make more money, when they recognize that blatantly out and you address that, they really look at you as a friend as opposed to, you're going to try to make my money. And I'll tell you why, just to get you a little one, because I know you're Italian. And I'm having a conversation with him, the doctor, and he says, you have to go to my new place called Euroshop. I said, where's Euroshop? He goes, and he gets out of the car when he's leaving, and he points to the next place next door to us. He said, that's where you have to buy all your Polish and Lithuanian delicacies. Jeez. So I'll be giving you some pierogies when I come back next week.
Okay.
But in fun, we have an understanding with people. Number one, debt was we never saw this debt as it is today. And the people that want these unbelievable lifestyles, John, they don't have the money for it. So what do? They get in debt. Think about it.
Yeah.
You want to have that fancy car or that fancy house? Let me get you more in debt. The banks are sucking you in, and my job is to get you out as fast as possible.
And you do.
And I do. And it's really amazing because when you see their faces, and when you speak with them about this, it really is, you look in your heart and you go, man, this is pretty cool. I'm doing this. And forget about all the other things we talk to our clients about and our prospects. But when you have that situation going, right, you have to really understand there is a debt problem in our country besides what the government put us in this debt situation. And that's what we'll talk some of this in the rest of the show about that.
Well, let's talk about this before we go to break, and then we'll pick up the others afterwards. The snowballing effect. What is this? A
snowball effect, and again, Dave did a couple of things to help me, but what happens is if you line up all your debt, John, this is what most people have been taught. I asked them, do you pay any extra money against any of your debt? You'll get yes or no. You only get two answers, yes or no.
Right.
And the individual will say, yeah, I pay an extra $300 in my real estate. And I pay another $200 against my student loan. And I pay another, $100 a month against my credit card. Now stay with me. That's not the right way to do it. Snowballing effect first starts with addressing the lowest amount that you owe. Not how much you pay, it's the lowest amount that you owe. So the first thing we do, all that over money that we just talked about, 300 here, 200 here, 100, we put that money into an SDIC account. Now stay with me because I don't know how much time we go to break because this is going to get dicey, Chris. So the first thing we need to understand is we pay the first debt down first. So
the smallest debt.
The smallest amount we have on the table, and that's the smallest amount, not the smallest number, because that's what you pay. You pay the smallest amount you have. Because of how we're using the overpayment that you're normally nothing would have changed, and we actually asked you a question, John, if there was a way to put another couple $100 against your debt, would you want to accentuate that faster? And you go, yes or no. It doesn't matter what your answer is. What it matters is we can get it off and do it faster. So the first that we pay off, and let's suppose it's a credit card, and you're paying $75 on it, right? You have that money in that SDIC account. It grows, whatever it is. Let's say it's $5,000-$6,000. It grows too because of what you're doing. You take that amount of money immediately, AI does it for us, contacts the insurance company and contacts me and contacts you and says, listen, we have enough money to pay the first debt off. We go right against the debt and we pay that off immediately. But the individual does not stop paying $71 into that monthly amount.
He keeps paying it.
Keeps paying it into the SDIC account.
And so he gets the next debt.
Correct.
Paid off.
Do the exact same thing, and we pay that off. Now, John, we are able to show, we showed you what it would take you to pay off your debt traditionally. And it was somewhere about 19 and a half years, give or take.
Yeah.
I had you out of debt in probably 8.5 years with a chunk of money left over.
Half the time.
Half the time.
Okay.
Half the
Stop
time.
right there.
Okay.
We'll pick that up.
You got
We're coming up on a break.
I'm ready.
It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich. Joe is JML Financial, his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, and he's here telling us how to get out of debt, debt-free for life. Fascinating system. And we're going to talk more about that after these words.
Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Palestina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Palestina. This ad was paid for by Palestina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
If you're interested in driving one of the finest automobiles on the market today, then you'll want to check out all of the fabulous new and pre-owned Lexus at Lexus of Atlantic City. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Driving a Lexus is like no other vehicle on the market. Test drive one for yourself at Lexus of Atlantic City. Whether it's new or pre-owned, you'll be more than satisfied. In fact, Lexus is consistently #1 when it comes to customer satisfaction. Visit Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Or you can check out their outstanding selection of new, pre-owned, and L-certified pre-owned vehicles on their website, LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. That's LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. Or, if you want more information, call 609-641-0008. Lexus of Atlantic City, now celebrating their 26th year in the area. A dealership that you'll enjoy. No pressure, no gimmicks, no hassle, no hype. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. And remember, always online at LexusOfAtlanticCity.com.
Your WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey. Breezy cooler with periods of rain and a thunderstorm this afternoon. There can even be ponding on streets and highways. High 60. Breezy with periods of rain and a thunderstorm tonight. Low dip into 48. A shower in places tomorrow morning. Then mostly cloudy, breezy, high 63 to wrap the weekend. Come Monday, mostly cloudy. A shower cannot be ruled out. The high 61. I'm AccuWeather's Ruth O'Brien on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
And we are back here on Talk with a Purpose. Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, jmlfinancialgroup.com is his website. And if you want to reach him during the week, 856-751-1771, 856-751-1771. That's the number. And if you call, well, you'll talk to Lynn. I mean, let's face it. You know,
we got to be nice to her today. She's not feeling too good, under the weather a little.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, get well soon, Lynn.
I gave her the day off.
Get well soon. Yeah, knowing you, you're going to say, I don't feel like going out tonight.
I want to make dinner tonight.
Yeah,
I'm making dinner today for you.
You making dinner?
Yes, I'm going to go next door.
Yeah, right. You'll get takeout.
I can invite you to come over. You don't have the pierogies I make. This is good stuff here. You're not ready for this,
Listen, if you give your wife a day off, a real day off, that's going to be the first one. All right?
I'm finished.
Okay. 609-407-1450. That's the number here in the studio. We were talking about an SDIC account, and at the end you have money. Again, you were explaining that you put the money in the SDIC account, and as soon as you have enough to pay off the lowest debt, you pay that off. Then you deal with the next one.
Correct.
So just pick that up.
If you think about it, John, it's a controlled process that we use. And it's really funny because AI, like I mentioned, caught up to what we were planning on doing. So it's really in depth. I mean, it's a brilliant, brilliant way to do this. What we do is we fill that bucket up, this SDIC contract. And by the way, for those who don't know, it's an insurance contract. It's by a mutual company with all the greatest ratings out there. It's not an UL. It's not a risky situation. And we fill up to the top and we minimize as much as possible the death benefit. We're using it for a cash situation and using it legally for a cash situation that the government allows us to do. The compound money grows tax-free as much as you want. It's a guaranteed interest rate and a dividend. And we deal with, really solid carriers, which includes chronic and terminal illness benefits into the contract. So people don't know this because all they've done, and most people in our business, has talked to them about saving money and just talking about their money. Now, if you draw a circle around where we are today, John, and talk to all the majors, the J.P. Morgans, the Merrill Lynches, and the Fisher Investments, and all these folks, they will only want to talk to you about rates of return and timing, which is good conversation, mind you. It's a great conversation to have, but it's not truly to build wealth in the long effect. Now, some of your people said long-term effect. This is not a short situation, wham, bam, thank you, man. It's a long strategy, and it gives you the power to be able to utilize your money differently like a bank. I mean, if we had a perfect profession to be in, man, banks would be the perfect profession. I don't know what they do, but they move money around. And they do financing. But if you think about it, John, your car, Chris's, mine, student loan, mortgages, credit card, all the money goes back to the what?
The bank.
So they're giving you 2% on your money or 3%, like they're giving us a gift, but they're making 35 to 50%. So if we use the same methodology and smart, and we have AI, this is how this works. Once you go into our system, now, John, every month I tap you on the shoulder and I say, John, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. The next month, John, you're closer to where we must be in terms of paying that debt off. Next month. So we don't lose sight, because let's face it, you said it earlier. We have an attention span of about 6 seconds.
Yeah,
Americans.
right.
I'm afraid to tell you. I mean,
right.
I'll give you a perfect example. My wife will be the first one to admit. When I watch a football game, the fact that I even played the game, I would watch your Eagles, another team, Kansas City. I would have to get in Johnny Wick. You got to watch Johnny Wick, Chris. He's one of my favorites. And maybe if Hannity's on that day, I'd watch him. All within that flip zone. So if I do that, I can't imagine I'm the only one in America that does the same thing. So because of our attention span and the information that we receive from whatever sources we receive them from, it's short. It's snippets. They don't read under the water information. They read the headline stuff. So we're able to take that to the next level and give them a very open dialogue, an architect that they can customize their own life. This is the beauty part of it, John. You'll love this. I'm not going to ask you to take any more money out of pocket unless you want to. I can actually fix your problem with the money you're paying now. But when you get out of debt, John, especially in retirement, it changes the game completely.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this.
Go ahead, baby cake.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
So you
I've been waiting for 3 weeks for this.
you take the money. Okay, and you put it into this special designed
insurance.
That's right.
Contract.
Okay.
See, he can't even remember. Like I just told him. That's okay.
Okay.
That's right. It happens. It happens.
All right. So it goes into this.
Yes, sir.
All right, and it's tax free.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now it grows
tax free.
Tax free.
Whatever rates between 4% and 6%.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now on the other side of that,
yes, sir,
you have your debt.
Yes, sir.
And what you do is you pay the smallest debt first.
Correct.
So as soon as you get to, let's say, $1,000 that you owe a credit card.
Right. Pay it off.
You pay that off.
Correct.
As soon as you get to $1,000 in this special account, you
It
pay
pays
that,
it off.
pay it off.
Correct.
So now you got one less debt.
Correct.
And then you go to the next one.
And
let's say
you still pay the debt off like it's not there, but you're still paying it like it's there.
Yes. Okay. Now you go to the next debt.
Correct.
And let's say $2,000. And as soon as the account
I would
gets,
say like $20,000 because it's a student. It's listed
okay,
as the student
all right.
loan.
As soon as it gets to that, you pay that off.
Correct.
And at the end of this thing, at the end of this 7 or 8, whatever it is, years, you're paid off.
Correct.
As opposed to doing it your way,
and you'll be in debt for another double or triple
till 2050.
Correct. That's exactly it, Johnny.
Oh man,
it's a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a
now the
beautiful
only
system.
problem is with that. Can you get people? And we have all over the country. We give them the first meeting. Like every person on this call should call in my office, and we'll put them through a guarantee. No pitching, no selling. We just want to make sure we help them. Of an example. Matter of fact, we give them our book, the book we just
Debt Free for Life,
right? Debt Free for Life book, which you read, and it makes it simple to understand.
I read it 3 times.
Correct, and you'll read it and you'll see. And because what happens is you pick up different things that maybe you didn't understand the prior, and you go, "Oh, I understand what he's doing." But when you see it, and I show you your real numbers. It's like showing you your real MRI or your real X-ray or your real blood count. I'm getting real as I can get to make sure what I share with you is customized. That's never been done before. And what we found by doing it, people are much happier and their stress levels decrease. Let's face it, that's what they do.
Yeah. Let's talk to Kevin in EHT. Kevin, you're on with Joe Yakovich.
Hey, Kevin.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Joe. Joe, just we all receive a lot of garbage through through our telephones and stuff. And I got one the other day saying that China and Russia are trying to, turn all the other countries in the world away from using the U.S. dollar.
Yep, they're doing a bit, but I don't think they do a good enough job. I don't think, because I heard the same things that you're hearing. I still believe, and you know as well as I do, just living where we live in this part of the world, we are I used to say we're the least corrupt country on the planet. But what I've seen over the last couple of years, we're not anywhere near where other countries are, which you don't go and even attempt to go there. I mean, think about it. I mean, Kev, I don't know where you're from. Well, you said where you're from, but would you feel real comfortable of going to a place in another part of the world like you would just come here in the U.S.? Well, maybe not.
No.
10 years ago, you would never say that. You would come here and, I'm going to New York. And Kev, I used to go to New York almost, or still, let's hope this year I do, every single Christmas. I would see the tree, the whole 9 yards. I'm a little hesitant the last 2 years to go there. And it's in my own country, which is 90 miles away.
Yeah.
So that concerns me, Kevin, and it's a cruise the whole world. So, but I still believe, Kevin, of all the things you said in terms of the currency, we still have dropped the value, but it's still better than all the other countries that, because of their corruption and their uncertainty, and even they're trying to do the same thing. Venezuela is printing their own money, but the U.S. dollar still holds up a lot higher than every country on the planet as we speak. Could that change? You know what, Kev? Your guess is as good as mine at this point.
Yeah, okay, that's good to hear. Going by what you just said also, I have no desire to go to Philly except the airport.
Correct.
Me too. No desire to go to New York.
But listen, Kev, stay with me on this one. Stay. You would go there, Kev. You know why you would, why or would you go there? You know what you would be? You'd be standing right next to me. And we're not carrying a piece. We're just going to go there and go together. But we have to, it's almost sad that I have to say that, because if you think about it, your head's on a swivel because you can't believe, and everybody's a target. I don't know. I used to go when I lived in, in Cherry Hill area. I used to go to New York 3 days a week, take the subway downtown. I've been going to Wall Street. I don't think I do that now. on the subway. I mean, it's almost kind of funny how it changed so rapidly. And that's upsetting to me as an American. That's, and when I'm seeing all this other stuff, who's to say that it won't happen here? That's the problem.
You're exactly right. I just you don't know what to believe, what to trust. And, we're going to become recluses because everyone's going to be afraid to travel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing that right now, Kev. Let's face it, not only afraid to travel, but I believe, Kev, I truly believe this, because of what happened with COVID, we were a little extremist. Nobody knew what was going on, but now we're working from home. Man, that's a twister. And I was going to talk about how commercial real estate is getting hammered, Kev, hammered in all the major cities, the New Yorks, the Chicagos, the LAs, the New Yorks, the Philadelphias, the Bostons. Nobody's moving back into the buildings. So my question becomes, how about those companies that have put commercial real estate in their portfolio, like in your 401k, that they're not going to be able to rent to people because they're not going back to the office anymore.
All right, Kevin, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Kevin.
It is our final break of the hour. It's Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Time for maybe one more call to Joe Yakovich, 609-407-1450. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich. We will come back with some final thoughts after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
If you want to talk to Joe Yakovich during the week, you want to talk about this Debt Free for Life, and I encourage you to at least make the call, because when I went through my debt, boy, did I find out something that I didn't know before. 856-751-1771 is his number, 856-751-1771. And his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, jmlfinancialgroup.com. And you can pick up a copy. Joe will be happy to send it to you, of this book, Debt Free for Life. So you'll know a little more about what he's talking about.
Right.
856-751-1771 is his number. We have a couple of minutes left of the hour with Joe Yakovich. And if you want to call him right now, 609-407-1450. And you want to talk about Jim Harbaugh. I know who he is, and football fans know who he is. But who is Jim Harbaugh, and why you want to talk about him?
And John, this is public when he signed his first contract with University of Michigan. University of Michigan head coach. That's the position he took. And when he negotiated his contract, Jim Harbaugh, coming out of the NFL, and he went into Michigan, he had a contract that was very creative. They called it a deferred compensation plan. And a deferred compensation plan, believe it or not, John, is what? A cash value life insurance. So what they would do is, what most people don't understand, and that's why we use it the way Jim Harbaugh used it, he was getting paid, instead of him putting the money in his pocket, he put in his policy, and it was designed for Harbaugh and millions of dollars to be able to accumulate tax-free during his retirement years. And it's a credible, unbelievable, and we do it on a much smaller scale, exactly the same thing that Harbaugh received. And people don't fully understand it. Matter of fact, I have the articles, John, that can prove that. So when I'm talking to people about this, the benefit is enormous in the overall scheme of retirement planning. And when you're talking to a person like me, John, and before we end, I want people to really recognize this. You know, we do a number of things besides investment planning and estate planning. This is part of my team. But the retirement planning part, to be able to withdraw sequels of return correctly, Roth conversions, we review your assets, we look at cash flow and budgeting, and obviously we bring in the tax planning part. But then I started to realize, John, as I'm doing this down the road for so many years, and I would do it just casually, but then I really started to focus on, what do you have in debt? Some people say, I got nothing. I said, you did a good job. But a lot of people, believe it or not, go, I'm this. And I would look at them. And in the beginning, I would make funny faces, but now I can't make those funny faces no more because I'm seeing more of those. Again, how much? I have 80,000. I have 150. I got 300, and I'm still paying, student loan debt. Now I have to pay back after OC 1. So all these things are compiling. I'm thinking, wow, if I can get them out of debt faster, that allows them to have a better retirement, number one. Or two, if I get them out faster, earlier in their career, if they're in their 30s or 35s and 40s, that means they'll be able to afford possibly another home or college education. So I feel like it's a multifaceted type of conversation with people when you're dealing with getting them out of debt.
It's a win-win no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, it really is, John. And it really makes you feel good because when you're recognizing you're getting people out of debt, and what you said earlier is that effective interest cost, and when you see it at 35 or 40%, my next question is, are you earning that now? Presently?
No way.
And they say no way.
Not even close.
So if I can get rid of that and have you start to get rid of it and you now have whatever money's left over to do the things you want to do, that's your choice. That's not my choice. But it allows us to get that person out of debt in half the time.
And I would think the earlier you do it, the more you would have to retire.
Correct. Because what we do is we run most of these models 10 years. So most of the time you're out in 10 years.
Yeah.
And if I can do that and focus on that 10 years, now the person says, listen, I have whatever age I'm at that time, I can spend more money or I can save more money or I can buy other things. But at the end of the day, you're out of debt completely. And that is, when you see the numbers jive and you use the examples, that's where Michael becomes extremely important to us because because of the technology background of his, he gets his young friends out of debt and he's 29. He's talking to people at, 35 or so and up to their nose in college debt or real estate debt or, mortgages and what have you. So,
and he's getting them out of debt earlier, which faster. Is the goal.
Correct.
Of that program.
Because you see what's happening, John, because interest rates are going up on these mortgages. They're over 8%. So people start to, that's why the real estate market's got a little beaten up here.
Well, that's going to put the wraps on another edition of Talk with a Purpose. Joe Yakovich is available during the week, and if you want to talk to him about debt-free for life, feel free. It doesn't cost you anything. 856-751-1771 is his number. 856-751-1771. His website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. jmlfinancialgroup.com is the website. I'm your host, John DeMasi. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Chris Coleman, our program director and producer, and thanks to Joe Yakovich for coming in and talking to us again about money and debt-free and all of that stuff. Have yourself a great week. We will talk to you next Saturday, 9 till noon, Talk with a Purpose, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You take care.
The preceding program was paid for and presented by John DeMasi.